What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Create the Courage podcast. This is a show where we delve into the art of chasing your dreams, leveling up your skills, and most importantly, taking charge of your life. I believe that nobody is coming to save you. It's up to you to step up, take control, and shape your destiny. Now, this is a journey that I'm also on, so I'm talking with people from all walks of life, from all over the world, in the hopes to learn how they create the courage in their lives. And today, my guest is a man I've known pretty much my whole life as we grew up neighbors back in Tasmania. I actually got to see his talent firsthand from the very first moment he picked up a guitar. Since then, he's been the guitarist for the country music band Wolf Brothers, who came second on Australia's Got Talent and have many successful albums. Then they became the touring band for country music legend Lee Kernaghan. Now to him launching his very own solo music career as an independent artist. I thank him for taking the time to come and speak with me and share his story. So without further ado, here's my chat with Mr. Brodie Rainbird, a man who truly represents someone who creates the courage. Brodie, mate, welcome to the Create the Courage podcast. It has been a while, brother. It is so good to see you. Welcome. How are you?
Johnny, I'm great, man. Thanks for having me. This is really cool just to get a message from you out of the blue. To do something like this, it's really cool.
Mate, look, I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner. I was thinking about, okay, who are the people I want to talk to? And I'm like, I think I saw a post of yours actually. A post of yours popped up, and I'm like, Brodie, what am I thinking? I need to talk to this man. It literally popped in my head like that. I think it was a song that you had released.
Yeah. Put a new one
and
out 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
that's what it was. What was
Yeah.
the name of that one?
Better Days.
Better Days. That's right.
Mm.
Yes, that popped up. I saw that, and I'm like, Brodie, I need to talk to him. Oh my God, I can't believe it took me that long to think about it. So,
Yeah.
thank you for coming on and doing it so quickly as well. I really appreciate that, mate.
No, man, it's literally
I know
just
you're
catching up with
probably
an old
busy.
mate, so it's nothing wrong with that.
It is. And for the viewers, we've known each other since we were babies, pretty much.
Yeah, like,
I mean,
geez, I
obviously a
remember.
little bit older.
Yeah, we spent so much time, like, after every school day at each other's houses.
Yep. Crazy, right? Like we literally grew up next to each other in Tasmania. Hold all the Tassie jokes, people. But we grew up in Tassie together. So we've known each other pretty much our whole lives. I still remember your house. I still remember the house that you grew up in. Like I was there yesterday. It's
Yeah,
crazy how you can
yeah,
remember stuff
same.
like that. Hey,
I was doing an
I still
interview
remember.
just yesterday, actually. I did a radio interview with Hugh and FM, and they asked me like
Yeah.
where the musical journey started, and I always start that question with there was an older guy next door who played guitar when I was in primary school, and I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So you're
Yeah,
literally the reason I picked up the guitar. It was you. So that's mad,
bro.
hey?
Oh, thank you. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Like, I actually wanted to tell that story too because back in the day when I was younger, I started playing guitar and I enjoyed playing guitar and I would try to play some Metallica riffs or whatever. But when you picked up the guitar, honestly, that's one of the reasons why I stopped. When you picked up the guitar and I saw I saw how quickly you picked it up. I'm not lying, guys. When Brodie picked up the guitar and started playing, it had like you'd been playing for years. Like just that natural talent or whatever, the work ethic or how often you practiced, you just had a knack for it, I feel like. And I could tell like many years later when you were like had been playing for a while, I'm like, man, you could actually go somewhere with this. And look out, he did. You did.
Yeah,
I can't believe it.
I found some people who were slightly more talented than I was, and I just hung around them long enough for something to happen.
That's crazy. So when did you if for people who don't know, and I probably mentioned it in the intro, but when you started playing with the Wolf Brothers, how
Yeah.
early did you guys start actually playing together? Like, was
I
it
met
high
Nick Wolf on
school
the
or
bus. Yeah, I met Nick Wolf in like grade 7. Um,
wow?
on the bus, and he played guitar and I play guitar, and we both like Metallica. So again, thanks
Yep.
to you, thanks to the early influence. So yeah, and I just sort of kicked off from there. Him and I did a couple of gigs, like in high school. We did like something for the school, and then we had a little band and we played, an
Yep.
assembly and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then I was hanging around with Nick Heaps and his brother Tom, and we were just all cool mates. Like after high school, in college, like Nick and I had a sort of semi-serious band called 5150, and we used to get around
Nice.
playing a little bit. And then after college, it was like, no, let's actually try this again and write some music and do some serious stuff. So yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there.
Mate, it's so crazy. Like we used to ride the school bus together, and
Mm.
then you go from doing that to just starting a band, and then realize, like, when did you realize that you guys could actually make it? That you wanted to make something? Like, do you remember when that was?
Yeah,
Like,
pretty early. Like there was actually we actually sat down and had a talk because like the boys had a band. They were doing the country scene and like BNS balls and like country pubs. Like love that scene by the way. Um,
nice.
and I wasn't in the band yet, and I was like keen as mustard. I was like, I want to play guitar. I want to do something. Like this is driving me insane. You know, I was just like an apprentice, Friggy, and
Hmm.
we had a bit of a meeting, like, and I went around to Nick Tom's house, and they had a different singer back then. Like Nick wasn't the singer, and a different
Oh
drummer.
wow.
Um, yeah, went round and was like, right, anyone who wants to get serious about this stays. If you're not going to commit 100%, 100 million percent, then have a think about where you want to be and what you want to do, and maybe don't show up. And the new
Yeah.
singer didn't show up, so Nick took it over. Um, yeah, and we just went hell for leather. Like we
Wow.
just committed everything we had to that for years and years and years. We still do,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was
Yeah.
just like doing that scene, that BNS country pub scene. Like it was just so much fun, dude. Like those gigs can
Wow.
get so wild, and like back then there was a lot more of it too. Like
Mm.
it wasn't the crazy expensive insurance and all this sort of stuff that stops events from happening. It was just a wild scene, and we put out an EP. The boys sort of put some money together and recorded that, and then it was like, hey, we're a band now. Like we're doing music, and
Yeah.
this is what we do.
That's so amazing. I remember when you were playing pubs and you'd play Longley Pub, no Sanford, yeah, Longley Pub.
Yeah, Longley. Yeah.
Um, Good old Longley. And man, like, what a training ground though for like doing big
Yeah.
venues, like actually getting out there and doing shows, right? I'm assuming that helped you guys when it came to playing on bigger stages. That you already had the reps in, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that was one of our big things was like when this opportunity came up to do Australia's Got Talent in 2012, was like you only had to play for I think it was a minute and a half or 2 minutes. And I was like, well, we're
Hmm.
used to playing for 3 hours. So if we can't like kill it for
Mm,
3 minutes or 2 minutes, like there's something wrong.
yeah,
So that was our mentality going into that was like, let's put 3 hours worth into 2 minutes and hopefully like
yeah,
people enjoy that. And they did, and it was really, really good.
yes. Like I can't believe it was 2012. You kidding me? That's how
Yeah.
old I'm getting. It was 2012 when you did it. I
Yeah,
still
it's been a
remember
hell
it
of
pretty.
a ride, man. Yeah, it's been crazy.
Wow. So you've been playing pubs, you've been doing it quite seriously. So you were working as a Phrygie at the same time as doing this, right?
Yeah, we all had
Um,
jobs because we couldn't really, do much else. But then after the show, and I still remember exactly where I was when I got the phone call. After the show, Tom had been hassling a guy called Steve White, and he manages Lee Kernaghan, and
mhm.
he's like Australian music royalty. Like he needs to write his book. We keep telling him this every time we see him, mate. You got to write your book because this guy has, he tour managed AC/DC. He tour managed Little River Band. He
Wow.
threw a TV out of a hotel in LA with Joe Walsh. Like he's done it all. Like he's never had a proper job in his life. He's just done this. And Tom was
Wow.
emailing him and hassling him, saying, "Hey man, we're a band from Tassie. We're in the country music scene." Hassling him. Never really got much of a response. Then we went on the show, and Steve White got back to us and was like, "Hey,
Mhm.
I've seen you on the show. I know you've been hassling me. Like, what are you doing?" And he was the only
Mm.
guy. We got a lot of offers from a lot of scungy people, and he was the only guy who was like, "What are you actually doing though? Like, what's been going on?" And Tom was like, "We've been doing these gigs. We've got our own PA. We gig, 2 to 3 times a week in Tassie. We're trying to, we've done a bit in the mainland. We're trying to get around the place." And he was like, "Yeah, all right, let me get back to you." And then just randomly got a phone call once when I was at work. I was on the roof at UTAS doing some work, and it was
Wow.
Tom. And he said, Kerno saw us on the show, and he said, Steve White's, there's been some back and forth with Steve White, and he just called me. He's like, "He's sitting down?" And I was like, "No, there's no way to sit."
Oh.
And he said, "We're going to be Lee Kernaghan's band, his touring band, and Steve
Wow.
Wright's gonna manage us, and he's gonna sign us up. So, yeah, that was just like, holy shit, like, this just took
It's real.
this just kicked up a notch. So, yeah, after that,
Yeah.
a lot of slowly one by one, we left our jobs because we had to take that on full time, and Kerno was
Mm.
touring a lot, like, pretty heavily. So, yeah, we went from pub band to, playing these theater shows with Kerno, like, just like
Mm.
that, like, it was real quick.
Wow.
And then he had Steve got us out of the Sony deal because when you do those shows, you're pre-signed and,
Mhm.
the company has the option to put you on. Steve got us out of this terrible Sony deal. It was terrible for both parties, so he just highlighted the fact that Sony was in it. I think they had to give us like 120 grand, and they didn't wanna do
Wow.
that. So he was like,
Mm.
"Get him out of this deal." Got us in with ABC, and then it's like, "Hit the road, let's go." Like, it's on. And for the next 10 years of our life,
Wow.
that was it. It was just like playing shows constantly and the ups and downs to do with that. It wasn't all like awesome, we were living on
Mm.
$400 a week for quite a number of years. And I'm not making
Oh,
much
wow.
more now even. Yeah, but it
Bloody
was
hell.
like I wouldn't have changed that, it's such a great life, doing that. It's
Yeah.
such an, out of the box, like, not normal thing when people say, "Well, what do you do?" And you're like, "Oh, I just tour and play music." They're like, "How? Like,
Yeah.
what's that like?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "It's
It's a
pretty
different life. It's a different life. Like, it's not
it's
your
very
normal
unorthodox."
go to work every day. It's an adventure. I look at it as it's an adventure.
Totally, yeah, and
Yeah.
it was suddenly that, and I got to get a bit personal too, I had massive imposter syndrome during that time, I didn't think I was good enough to be there, and I could see that the other
Wow.
boys were, like, totally ready to take that on, and I still, like, there was still a lot about music that I didn't understand,
Mm.
and in the year before that, I'd actually left my job. I was doing sort of part-time Friggy work, and I was doing part-time uni, like, studying at the con, because I just didn't
Yeah.
there was so much I didn't understand still, and my confidence wasn't there with music and guitar playing, and then suddenly I was thrust into that role, and I was like, "Well, yeah, you
Mm.
can't leave, like, you have to stay here and do this. This is what you wanted." And it was
Yeah.
awesome, but at the same time, we'd finish a lot of shows, and there'd be I'd have so much, like, self-criticism, and I'd just go back to the hotel and
Mm.
be like, "Man, I can't do this. I'm not good enough?" And it took a long
Wow.
time for that to leave. It took that was, like, years of finishing gigs and then just going backstage and just being really disappointed with what I'd done. So,
Really?
yeah, it was a
Mate,
fascinating thing, yeah.
that's so interesting to hear because I'll just tell you, like, every time I've seen you play or heard you play, you look confident, but also I don't notice anything wrong. I'm like, I don't notice any mistakes or anything. It looks like you guys are just killing it. It's crazy to think that this is the thing that people don't understand about people who do performing and have imposter syndrome about those things. I think it's a real thing. Like, I
Mm.
still struggle to listen to the podcast or listen to
Yeah,
myself doing voiceover on things. Like, I can't handle listening to myself. Like, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that, or oh, I did this or I did that. So I totally understand what you're saying.
mm.
It's just so interesting for me to hear you say it because I look at you and I'm going, oh, you're just talent through the roof. You got this. This is nothing to you. You're just banging it out like it's no big deal. You keep
Yeah,
going back.
no, no, I spent a lot of time on stage just hanging on by a thread, and I started sort of, I started realizing people would listen with their eyes too, which made me feel a lot safer because I have no issues
Mm,
performing. It was mostly to do with playing, and sort
mm,
of understanding the music side of things. I've no issues, like, making it look awesome, climbing
hmm.
up on top of a PA and doing a big solo, yeah,
Yeah.
that's always sort of been there. But at the same time, like, my playing might only just be hanging on by a thread when the lights are weird and you're trying to balance on top of a PA, you're trying to play this wicked solo and
Mm,
you can't quite see properly, so you don't know what your balance is.
mm.
It's like, I could fall off this thing at any second. Like, the whole thing, I think part of why people like seeing stuff like that is because it is hanging on by a thread. Something could go wrong,
Mm.
like, there's high risk there. Yeah, but
There
yeah,
is
at
high
the
risk.
same time, yeah, the imposter syndrome was massive. We'd go into our first rehearsal with Lee, second rehearsal with Lee. So the first one was like more of an audition, um, and he loved what he saw, and he was like, "Yeah, boys, let's do this." That was the final, like, let's go. We went in, we played
Hmm.
3 songs with him, and we'd practiced those 3 songs for a month. Actually, it
Wow.
was 10 songs, and he only wanted 3. And
Okay.
it was like, after that, we went into a proper rehearsal where it was like, let's do the whole show. And the boys had so much input on how the show should go, what the set list
Mm.
should happen, because there's a lot of thought that goes into that, transitions between songs, what's
Mhm.
going on in the tracks. The tracks have instruments that aren't being played, and the boys had so much input on that. And I just sort of stood there quietly, just going like, I have no idea what to say. Like, why am I even here?
Mm.
Like, this is mental. I'm just sort of
Yeah.
standing here holding a guitar. So that was tough for a while, but it
Mm.
took a lot of years to realize the reason I didn't have any input on that was, A, I didn't quite have the experience, and B, because it's not my scene as well. And
Mm.
it was just, like, such a relief to go, "Oh, it's fine," like, I had to go
Mm.
and do things on my own to realize I could take charge of stuff like that. It just wasn't my
Mm.
scene, that's all. That's why I didn't know what to
It's
do, like.
it's making sense to me now because I wondered when you broke away to do your own thing. I thought, "Oh, that's interesting. Like, you guys are so successful. It's
Yeah,
interesting that you're stepping away." I never really realized that, um, you know, it wasn't particularly your scene was the country music scene of it.
yeah,
Like, you could do it because you've got the talent and you work hard at learning the music. That makes sense now, mate. Honestly, I didn't know, and I never asked. I never
yeah.
reached out and thought, I just thought, "Oh, cool, he's just branching out on his own and he's singing now." Like, because now you're singing. You're singing. Like,
Yeah, that
what?
that was something that bugged me for ages too, was, like, had this something in the back of my head, in my heart too, was like, "You need to sing, dude, like, you need to do more than just, play guitar," because it was unfulfilling, and there was a whole
Mm,
terrifying journey that went along with that. There was this whole thing of, like, I got my guitar playing to a point where I hit this wall, and I was just like, "I can't. I wanna be this impressive guitar player at gigs, and I wanna really wow people with that." Um,
mhm.
and it just wasn't where I wanted it to be. I didn't have the confidence. I could perform, but I couldn't really get my hands and mind locked into where it needed to be. And I ran into my
Yeah,
old guitar teacher, and he gave me a bunch of stuff to do, a bunch of, like, it was mostly to do with improvisation and things like that, stuff that I never really got the hang of.
yeah,
And he gave me a bunch of stuff to do. He said, "Do this for 3 months." And I did it. I practiced religiously, like 6 days a week for about 3 hours a day, because I didn't
wow.
have a job, because we were just touring, and I was living with Tom in the little hut up on the farm, and he was charging me $20 a week rent, so I could afford to do this sort of stuff. And after
Yeah,
that 3 months, I put the guitar down, and I hated it with a passion, and I didn't wanna practice anymore. I was like, I'm done
oh,
with
wow.
this, like, this hasn't done what I wanted it to do. The the passion wasn't there to be that guitarist anymore, it had gone. And I was like,
Mm,
"Right, what if I just do music? Like, what if I just write some music?" And I was being inspired by things outside of the country area. At the time, I
mhm.
was like, I was like, "Heck it, let's just start singing and writing." And then it
Yeah,
suddenly clicked that the country scene wasn't my scene. Loved the gigs.
wow.
I enjoy the scene a lot, um,
Yeah,
but suddenly it wasn't there. I was like, "Oh, okay,
mm,
well, let's just write music." And I was really getting into music production as well. I was starting to get my head around Logic, and,
mhm.
buying plugins and mucking around with sound production and things like
There's
that.
so much to it, isn't there? There's so much
Yeah,
to it.
yeah, and I really liked it. I was like, this is really fulfilling." And, that was a couple of years ago now. It was, um, yeah, a long time ago, and I've not
Mm.
had a practice session with guitar since then. I've not done it. Like,
Really?
I just
Wow.
because we're gigging so much, the skill hasn't deteriorated because we gig so much. But yeah, since
Mm,
then, I've never sat down to practice to get any better at guitar. It's more about singing and writing now, which really set my heart on fire. So, because you can't, it's
yeah,
something I tell kids a lot, or like when parents come up to me and say, my son's like learning guitar. What do we do? Like he's just in primary school, or he's like in grade 7. And I'm like,
mhm,
please God, don't practice stuff you hate doing, because you'll end up hating it and you'll just put it down.
mm,
Like, you've gotta be chasing the thing that you're really like, the thing that really sets you on fire. You don't get better at stuff unless you're into it. Like,
mm,
it's not gonna work. You're whatever the
mate.
process is in your brain that is, attentive and like drives you, if that's not there, you could do that thing for
Yeah.
3 hours a day. It won't work. You'll get nowhere. It's like going to the gym
Mm.
and not eating the right food. It's like you're just wasting your time.
Yeah. Oh, mate, you have no idea how hard this hits home what you're saying there, because that is literally what I've been going through these last couple of years of is coming to
Yeah,
the terms of what actually sets my heart on fire. What do I have the passion to actually do? Because I'm like, oh, I could do this, or like my thing was I was pretty good at sales over the years, doing sales. So I worked in the gym industry as a salesman, then as a gym manager, and I found I had some good skills at that, and I use that in other areas to kind of do well with sales. But my heart wasn't in it, the passion. And then I recently, wanted to do some sales, and just the passion wasn't there. And no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't get success with it. And I'm like, it's
yeah,
because I don't have the passion for it. I'm not,
yeah,
I'd rather go do this. My mind's on this. My mind's on doing a podcast. My mind's on creating my brand for, on YouTube. And still feels weird trying to say that, like a brand. We're trying to create, the podcast and do photography. And I'm actually really into videography, and I wish I could be a cinematographer, and I love film. And why don't I just give it a go? But for so long, I told myself, you can't do that. That's
yeah,
not for you. Like, you've got to get a job, you've got to pay the bills, you've got a family,
yeah,
you got to do this, you
yeah.
got to do that. And then I just came to the realization of, like, I'm 42 now, and people are probably sick of hearing me say that, but I'm like, I need to go after my dream. I want to chase my
Definitely, yeah.
dream. I want to give it a go. And I admire people like yourself who, it's so crazy to hear you say this about the guitar thing, because I didn't know that. I didn't know that you lost that passion for that. I just
Yeah,
thought you
no,
were
I
branching out.
loved it.
I had
I
no
still
idea.
love it. Like, I love doing gigs. I love, we've done some insane gigs. It's the best job in the world. Don't get me wrong.
Mm.
It is freaking amazing. Um,
Yeah.
but the thing that I was chasing was this like high tier, like well-known Australian guitarist kind of Brett Garsted
Mm.
kind of stuff. And then I think when I was in my early 30s, I was like, "Oh, geez, like this should have probably you should have probably have done this by now." Um,
Mm.
why like what's gone wrong here? Like I've been into this for so long. Why am I still not like this top tier guy? And I'd set my sights so incredibly high. And
Yeah.
it turns out I didn't actually want to be that guy. Like it just
Wow.
wasn't there. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's so crazy. But it
It was
was the thing that got you in the door that led you to the thing that you knew
yeah.
you were passionate about, I
Well,
guess. That's the great
it
thing.
yeah, it turned out what I was actually passionate about was good songs. That was it. Like
Mm.
it's just and I go back and listen to like all of my favorite guitarists, all the guys that were like, you know, Van Halen, Steve Vai, like all of these Guitar Hero guys. What they're
Mm.
actually really good at is creating melodies, strong melodies that you remember. Joe
Mm.
Satriani had "Always with Me, Always with You." So I think it was one of the only instrumental songs that ever charted
Mm.
Billboard charts, and that's because
Yeah,
the
wow.
melody is so strong, so emotion invoking. Turns out that's what I'm into. This whole time
Mm.
I thought I wanted to be this shred guy, and now like I don't even, I see guys doing that. I'm just like, whatever, man. Like, give me
Yeah, or
something
that
I
video I sent you the other day, that video I sent you of that guy the other day, because
yeah, and
I'm
it's
sending
super
it to you thinking,
impressive.
"Oh, you'll love this."
Yeah, and it's super impressive stuff. But I look at that now, I'm just like, I can't sing that. Like, it's
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like there's a niche for that, and there's a scene that's and it's got to exist. Like, it's just art finding a
Yeah.
new way to be cool. But yeah, for
Mm.
me, it's like the fundamental thing is that melody that I can sing and remember forever. Like, that's actually what I'm
Mm.
into. So yeah,
Yeah. To me, I feel like the music is to accentuate the words that are being spoken, and the words,
yeah,
is what that sticks in your mind. Like when you're singing a tune, you're singing the words. You're not
yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
singing the
But
tune.
you can boil a song down to one of probably three fundamental things for me. It's like the groove, the thing that you dance to, the melody is the last thing you will remember. Like if someone says, "Oh, what was that song again?" They'll sing the melody. Like they won't be able to remember
Mm.
anything else from it. They might not
Yeah.
remember the words. They might remember one like key word, like the title or the catch, like the hook of the song. but they'll actually remember the melody. Like, it all boils down to that. And the third thing is probably, like, if you took the rest of it away, you've just got a poem, which can also be quite meaningful. But yeah, for me, melody is king. Like, that's
Wow.
the thing. The
I'm so
melody is
happy for you.
Yeah, well, the melody is what opens your heart to the lyrics. You could have the most meaningful lyrics. They might, the melody might go nowhere, and it won't really get into you. But if the melody, like, opens your heart to those words, then the song's got you.
It's so true. When I think about it, when I think about the songs that stick in my mind, it is the melody that is what
Yeah,
sticks in there, and what you
yeah,
remember, or what you're singing around. Like, I listen to my daughter's music that she's into at the moment, and I find myself singing the hooks of her
yeah,
songs, or or certain parts where they do, like she listens to Gracie Abrams and Olivia Rodrigo, and
yeah,
she loves who else does she love? Like Kenzie and a few of these others. She's really into these types of artists. And I find myself singing along, or singing the words, or I'll just be doing something and I'm just singing the song,
yeah,
like one of those songs, because the melody's so catchy, or it resonates, like there's something they've said, or it's great lyrics, really good written lyrics. So I totally get that, like, because I'm into writing too. Like, I write my scripts for the video for my other YouTube channel, where I do the things, do photography and all that type of stuff. So I'm into writing, and I actually quite enjoy writing. And I don't know if you remember how, well, I'm sure you remember when we did music together, because you played guitar for me many a time on some of my tracks that I made back when I thought I was going to be Australia's Eminem. Uh,
What did we call
I
that
think
project?
back about-
I still have them kicking around. What did we call that project?
oh man, I
What's that song?
actually
Fuel
can't
to the
remember. I know
Fire.
it's yeah, Fuel to the Fire. That song is actually still on Triple J Unearthed, funnily enough.
Is it?
Do you know
Oh,
that?
wonderful.
Do you know that song got entered into a competition many years ago? I got an email from Triple J on Earth saying that they selected that song to be put into a little just music competition.
No
I never
way.
heard back. Never went anywhere else. But yeah, that was my like little
Amazing.
claim to fame.
Oh,
So
dude, and our
that was like
recording
my
setup.
hit song.
Yeah, and our recording setup for that was so, like, so basic. God, when I think back to that now, and, like, what we have today, like, and, like, just the
Yeah.
knowledge we were running on, like,
Yep.
just rock bottom, like, beginner
Rock bottom.
stuff.
I don't
It was just
remember at my
like,
house, I had the microphone with a sock on it. I had the
oh
sock
my
over a
god,
little
sock
computer
as a pop
microphone
filter, like,
that I would rap into.
jeez. It was an old computer mic on a stand with a sock over it, and then
Yeah, good old days.
I think I bought a condenser mic or something, or I had ones from
You
somewhere.
did. I think you did. You did.
Yeah, I just didn't know what we were doing, man. So much fun though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When I
metal
came
riffs.
over to your house to try and rap it, mate, I kept thinking, "Can your mum hear me? Can your mum hear me rapping like this?"
Yeah,
I felt so embarrassed.
yeah. It's man, I still get that. When I'm down here practicing, there's two people who live upstairs. When I'm down here practicing, I'd prefer to do it when there's no one home. Still, like,
Mm.
it's just that never goes away. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't think it does. Like, even when I record like voiceover for my videos, I'm like, I wait till the wife and daughter are asleep or they're out,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then I
yeah,
do it. I don't know why. I just can't handle. I'm like, I just get
yeah.
embarrassed, and I'm like, you can't be here for this.
Problem
You
with
can't listen
practicing
to
is that, like, it's like most things. You have to make some terrible noises to get to the good ones. So, and, like, especially with singing, Jesus, like, some of the
it.
dumb stuff you have to do to explore where your voice goes and to practice, what your voice, to get everything working properly. You gotta make some silly noises sometimes, like, and I'll be down here doing it, and I'm thinking, "God, like, upstairs must be, like, dude's on drugs down there, like, he's lost it. He's."
Oh, that's so funny, but true. It's so funny, but true. Like all the little warm ups, like I can't even do them. I won't even try to do them, but I
Yeah,
can imagine. All right, so I want to ask you then. So, because I think this fits the theme of the show perfectly, creating the courage. Like, I kind of want to drill it back to. Well, I'll start with this. I wanted to go back to when you first like got into Australia's Got Talent, because I wanted to ask about that. So maybe we'll go here, and then we'll work my way up to you leaving to go do
yeah,
your own thing, because I'm more interested about now, knowing that that's where your passion lies.
sure.
But when you guys were playing and working your full time jobs, and
Yeah.
just trying to get out there. Like, can you just give us an idea of like, this is obviously just before Australia's Got Talent. Like, what was it? What were the days like for you? You know, like you go work what 8 hours, and then how much are you practicing of a night? Like, what was your life like then?
Yeah, pretty full on. Yeah, practice as much as I could. That was a stage when I was also really into chicken picking stuff. So there was passion there, and I still really love playing like that. That whole
Yeah.
like 1-5 country like fast chicken picking stuff. Loved that.
Hmm.
So yeah, that passion had me locked in there for a while. But yeah, a lot of times it was like knock off work Friday. Um, have like I would unload my ute at work and leave all my tools and stuff in one of the workshops at Utes has, and then run home, shower, change, load up the car. It depends where we were going. Sometimes it'd be like a 3 or 4 hour drive to the gig up north somewhere.
Oh wow.
Sometimes it'd just be like Irish Murphys in town. But
Yeah.
yeah, load up the fellas. We'd bought a trailer together, so I load the trailer up, and the boys got given their pop gave them an old blue high ace. Load that up,
Oh wow.
ship out, go and do gigs, and it'd be yeah, like just go and do it.
Wow.
Some
So you'd
you know,
be playing all weekend, and then through the week, like, would you get home from work of a nighttime and then practice, or is it more like you would
yeah,
at that point then where you could so you'd be practicing like all week, like working, practicing? Doesn't leave
yeah.
much room for extra activities, right? I would imagine.
No, but like when your side hustle is doing gigs, like what else do you want to do? Like that's awesome. Like that's just the coolest
Mm,
life. We'd have weekends off every now and then, catch up with mates and go on the piss. When you're in your early
yeah.
20s, you still do all that stuff. But like, yeah, when your thing on the weekend is doing gigs, you don't feel like you're missing out. So that was never an issue. And practicing during the week was just got to learn some songs and got to you know, yeah, just try and get better at, you want to do better this weekend. We've got this cool gig coming up. Oh, I'd really like to, do better than I did last time. So here I
Mm.
am working on the things that didn't work for me that, last time. So yeah, there was a lot of that going on.
That's interesting. Is the reason I ask that is when I've talked to people about like getting after your goals or chasing your dream. A lot of people have that thing. It also comes down to when like people would struggle to find time to exercise. Is they would say they don't have enough time to do things right. Well, I'm a big believer that we all have 24. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. So I guess the reason why I asked that question is because that's a lot. You're going and working a full time job. You've then got to put work into practice. Probably
Yeah.
sometimes when you might not feel like it. I would imagine, like, yeah, sometimes you
I
wouldn't feel
still
like it, but you
yeah, it's
but
still
you've
like
gotta do it, right? If you Yeah, so and even now, again, that's good for people to hear that even now, like, as far as you've gotten with it, you still have times when you don't feel like doing it, but you've gotta do it, and that's hard when you're doing creative stuff, because I feel
yeah,
like creative stuff, sometimes you've gotta be in the zone, or you've got to be really the passion,
mm,
the juices flowing to have that creativity to go and get stuff done. So I just find it really interesting for when people who are trying to make it, you had the, I guess the will back then to put in the work and skip out on laying around on the couch watching a movie and actually practice of a night and then get up and go to work and
yeah,
to
yeah.
prepare for the weekend, I guess.
Yeah,
So
it did get
yeah.
to a point, I had a little battery operated amp, and I'd have that in my work van, and I'd take that to work and, like, practice at work if it was nice to get it
Oh
done
wow.
before I got home 'cause, usually pretty tired at home. But if there was
Hmm.
moments at work when I could slack off and practice in the van, I'd be doing that. Um, Especially when the Kernaghan thing came up and we had to learn those 10 songs for him because we were gonna go and do an audition. Every day, I was slacking off at work, and I'd be parked up somewhere where no one would find me, and I'd be practicing those songs, just on the
Yeah.
just like Bluetooth to the stereo in the car, and I'd just be playing along. Yeah.
That's
So,
cool.
yeah, sort of whatever it took. At the time, it didn't seem like that big of a sacrifice. It was just like, I wanna be doing this, and eventually, like, when I was at Spotless, they were looking to make someone redundant, and I said, "Well, I wouldn't mind going to uni. Can I just if there's less workload, can I just be part-time and go to uni?" And my boss loved that. So eventually it did come
Nice.
time to sacrifice earning money to learn more about music, and that
Mhm.
worked really well. I didn't get a degree. I just stuck around long enough to get what I needed. I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
now I understand what's happening in a lot of this stuff." And
Mm.
that was well before Kerno. That was, yeah, '08 to, 10, I think, 10,
Yeah.
11. Um,
Wow.
so, yeah, I was rolling up to uni and just getting what I needed, earning a bit less money, but I was still living at
Yeah.
home, so it was fine. It wasn't an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's good it's good for people to hear though, because you do at some point, you do have to make sacrifices to chase the
Yeah.
thing you want. Like, things don't magically just become awesome straight away because you've got talent or because you're in a band or that you get a gig or whatever, right? You've still people don't realize, like, I bet you no one realized that you were living off 400 even when you were touring, living off $400 a week.
Oh,
You wouldn't
yeah,
think that at all. You think, "Oh, you're balling," like, you're probably doing it all, like,
yeah,
loving making money, breaking neck, cashing checks, like, all
yeah.
that type of stuff.
And life-wise, we were having the best life, like, touring constantly, we're in our 20s, we were doing gigs. There was every now and then there was some girls, it was like and as a musician, you get free alcohol all the time, you just that's just
Mhm.
part of your payment. It's the writer,
Mm,
like, that's part of the payment for the gig. So, yeah,
mm,
we were living a great life, we were traveling everywhere, we were touring around Australia, seeing theaters and venues that we'd never seen before, but, like, the
yeah.
perception was, like, that we were really well off. Reality
Yeah.
was we were struggling, man, for years to, like,
Mm.
struggle town,
Wow.
and, like, yeah, and there was even a couple of moments when we'd try and go out on our own, the Wolf Brothers, it was cool touring with Kerno. The Wolf Brothers thing wasn't quite where we wanted it, and, I mean, the boys would probably still say now it probably isn't where they want it, but there was times when we'd go and do gigs off our own back, and they'd fail, and it'd just be, like, so gut-wrenching, like, we
Oh,
got stuck
jeez.
in, where was it? We got stuck in New South Wales somewhere. There was a promoter that, booked us for a bunch of gigs, and it sort of failed, and we were sort of touring with we did a tour with Angry Anderson on our own
Mhm.
back, and they
Wow.
just didn't sell. I think the most tickets we sold to one of those shows was, like, 12,
Eesh.
and and one night, 4 people showed up, and we got stuck in this town, and we were all just so depressed. We
Oh,
put our money
no.
together, and we went down, we bought 2 bottles of the cheapest scotch you could get, which at the time was, like, $29 for a bottle of scotch, and we were stuck in this hotel for the rest of the week because we couldn't afford to just go home and come back. We were stuck there, like, the
Mm.
cheapest option was to stay put, and we were talking
Damn.
about doing letterbox drops with tickets, like, it was rock bottom, like, that was
Oh
rock
my
bottom,
god.
and we just got drunk and just made each other laugh and got through it, like, it was just,
Yeah.
it's
What
gotta
a
get
story to tell now, though. What a story to tell now, though,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
and there's a few drunken
looking back on it.
quotes. There's a few drunken quotes from that night that still live today. We still quote each other from things we said that night, you know, and things are a lot better now, so, yeah, fuck, what a thing.
People don't realize that, hey? They don't
No,
realize
yeah, the perception
they
was
don't
you'd
see
been
that.
on TV, so you must have money, and
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
how I've
I
never
just
understood that. It's like, "You guys have
yeah, I
made it,
don't get
like, why can't you give
yeah,
me free stuff, free merch?" It was like, "No, you earn
yeah.
twice what we earn." Like, that's the reality of it.
We need to sell the merch to actually have some money to get to the next
Yeah,
place. I
like,
guess that's
please
kinda what it's like, right? You gotta it's always a hustle. You've got to hustle to get from the next thing to the next thing,
yeah, and there
until
was
you
a
get that.
yeah, there was a lot of people in Tassie, well, not a lot, but there was a section of Wolfies fans because people always, they love going for the underdog. And when we were just doing pubs, everyone was like, "Oh, I really want to see you go all the way, boys. Go get it." And
Mhm,
when we're on the show, it was like, "Yeah, represent Tassie." And then there was this switch, like, because we had proper management now. I was like, "Well, we need to lift the perception. We can't just go around doing free shows for the pub fee now. It's like it's got to be a
mhm.
door deal, ticketed thing. You're a proper band now. You do ticketed shows." And there was a
That's right.
subsection of people in Tassie who hated that, who were like,
Mm,
you've been on TV, like, why do I have to pay to see you now?" And they'd
mm.
come up to us and be like, "I can't believe I've got to bloody pay for a ticket," and then they'd have 2 cans of Woodstock and a pack of cigarettes in the pocket. It was like, the ticket's worth less than that. and
Mm,
that was something that we weren't ready for. Like, people
mm.
were hating us for doing something, like doing the thing that they
For
cheered on.
trying.
Yeah, well, like, they were
Yeah.
cheering us on the week before, and now they
Mm.
hated having to buy a ticket, so that was a bit confronting, but, um, yeah,
Did that
wild.
make you feel a bit bitter about it? Like, bitter about, like, the when you would come up to when you would get confronted by people like that? Because I could
Yeah, a
imagine
little
that
bit.
pissing me off.
Yeah, I mean, it's that tall poppy thing that Australians are really good at. Um,
Mm,
yeah, we love the underdog until they become the top dog, and then we wanna sort of cut
mm.
them down. So, yeah, that
Yeah,
was the introduction to that. We got used to that pretty quick, and it became a very easy thing to dismiss very quickly. It's
yeah.
just a human behavior thing that we recognized, and, that's all it
Mm,
was. It's when people do stuff like this, it's not a reflection of what you're doing, it's a reflection of them. It's what they've got going on
yeah,
in their life, and they're throwing it
that's
out
right.
at you. So, yeah,
That's
and
right.
that yeah, very quickly was a thing that was easy to deal with.
Yeah. People are always happy to, like, say you should get somewhere, but if it comes to them actually trying to actually help and support you, then, "Oh, no, I don't wanna do it." Like, someone else can
Yeah,
do that, but that's what it seems
and
like to me.
there was a slight ownership too, like, there was a Tasmanian sort of ownership of the band, and then when they sort of realized that it was much bigger than their local pub, I was like, "Oh, no, but that's our band, like, you can't have them," kinda thing, which was
Mm,
another bizarre thing we saw. Um,
wow.
yeah, again, it's fine. These are all good problems to have, like, it's
Mm.
gonna happen, so
Wow. Well, so you did that, you got onto the show. So I would like to hear, if you don't, you've probably talked about it a million times, so I apologize for drumming it up
not with
again.
my old mate
But
Johnny, though.
awesome. Well, when you got on the show, like, what was that experience like? Like, did it open
Incredible.
your eyes to how TV worked? Like,
Yeah.
uh, how I guess, can you just give me a breakdown of, like, some of your highlights, I guess, the memories of actually
Yeah,
just seeing
yeah.
how it all worked
It
and
was
going
that
through it?
ultimate thing of, like, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. It was that ultimately just like exactly that. So many gigs,
Yeah.
under our belt. We were a tight band. We knew each other's playing really well. We knew, what we were doing. We were still babies though. But
Mm.
yeah, just going on TV, yeah, like it's like all of a sudden you've got 2 minutes to put all of your energy into. We played mostly originals, which was really nice.
Mhm.
Um, one of the things that was weird was the costume, like they dress you, and
Wow.
that we always felt like they didn't understand, like they'd dress us and we'd be like, what is this crap? Like, have you heard the music? Like, this isn't it, you know? That was it. That was an interesting experience, and, like, if you confronted the wardrobe department about it, you could tell they didn't like that, like, you questioned their profession kinda thing.
Mm.
So that was interesting. The hype was pretty incredible because it's in studio, it's live in studio. Hype was
Mhm.
amazing. We always felt like we were a bit of we didn't quite fit in with what those shows kinda do. There was
Mhm.
always this thing of, like, I don't think we were meant to be there at the end. A lot of the production side of things, like, they counted on us not being there. And if you
Really?
go back and watch the grand finale show, if it still exists somewhere, you'll notice that we're actually not in it. We're the only act that doesn't have a little bit in the grand finale. It's because they
Oh,
wrote us out of the
wow.
show. We weren't supposed to be there.
Oh my
So
god.
that which was cool as well because we were like, "Oh, guess what? We're still here," like, sucked in.
Underdogs
Um,
again coming through.
yeah, it's mental, right? Like, yeah, and they sort of denied that to us, but was like, "Come on, it's pretty obvious." So that was
Yeah, so
cool.
they do give you the final video, right, where they go and talk to you and, like,
There was
talk
a
about
there
your
was a
mission.
yeah, there was a final, like, the grand finale, there was a song. It opens with a song, and every artist comes out and does a little bit of the song, except for us.
Wow.
So that was interesting.
Rigged. Rigged.
Rigged, yeah, yeah. We
Rigged.
got to meet some great
Rigged.
like, other talent that we've run into since then that are still doing their thing, which was, like, awesome. Um,
That's cool.
there's that Aussie comedian guy who, like, absolutely kills it just doing, like, doing stand-up comedy for, like, corporate events and stuff, like, kills it.
Yeah.
Like, he made his living like that. his fee went up like tenfold after that show, and it stayed that high. So that was
Right.
really cool. Justin Bieber came, and that was mental. Like being
Oh, wow.
in the backlots when he arrived, it was pretty wild. It's easily the closest thing I've seen to Beatlemania, like because the
Mm.
fences around the studio in Melbourne, down in Docklands, I think it was, fences around the studio are quite high, and it was just lined with girls, like young girls, and like uh, in like the people who'd got in, bought tickets to come in and see that that show that day that he was like guest appearing on. We watched young girls, like their mums dragging them out of the studio because their legs had stopped working, like they couldn't walk
Oh my
because
god.
they were so like they just lost control of their body because Justin Bieber was there and they got
Wow.
near him. That was a wild thing to see, and we were gonna do a little prank where I put a hoodie on so you couldn't see my face, and the boys were gonna rush me through the car park in front of everyone to try and pretend I was Justin
Yeah.
Bieber, and then we decided that was too dangerous because it
Yeah,
was
probably.
wild, like, it was really wild. Like, "Nah, someone will get hurt, like, someone will do something extreme," like, it's just mental.
Yeah, probably. Damn, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
And we
Years
were
and
all lined up
probably.
backstage. Later that day, they had all the acts behind the big, screen that moves apart where you walk through the back. They had all the acts lined up back there, and just before he came on, um, like, because it was quite pokey back there, everyone was there, it was all jostling around, standing around this ramp thing that goes up to the back, and someone sort of I wasn't looking, and someone bumped into my shoulder, and I was like, "Oh, well, yeah, fair enough, like, there's no room back here." And all these
Fair
people
bump.
came through, jostling through, and I kinda looked over after they'd moved through, and I was looking at one of the dance there was, like, a dance group of young guys who had made the finals, and they were all looking at me, just jaws just on the floor, like I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Justin Bieber just bumped into you." I was like, "Oh, no."
Oh!
I didn't even notice. So I was like, "Fuck, really?" Like, because he had a hoodie on as well, like, I didn't know who it was.
Yeah. Oh,
So
man.
that was a cool moment. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's cool, bro. That's cool.
Yeah.
Imagine if you turn around, like, gave him a "Get off me!"
Yeah, imagine if I'd been the kind of aggressive, like, person who was like, "Oi, don't." At the time, I was just like, "Yeah, fair enough, like, there's no room to move back here. It's gonna happen." So, yeah,
Yeah.
wild.
Alright. That's cool, man. That's cool. That's cool. And what was he like? Did you get to see him perform? Did he perform, right?
No, because that was just before he went on. So, we
Oh,
were
okay,
backstage,
before
we
he
didn't
went
get
on.
to see it. I think one of the girls jumped up on stage and grabbed him as well, and it was
Oh,
quite
gee.
embarrassing for the production for that to have let that happen, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
wild, wild, man.
That's crazy. Were the people who run the show, like, insufferable to deal with in regards to
No.
just how they did things, or were they alright?
No, they were pretty good to us. They were really nice to us. There was one thing I mean, they're always trying to find an angle when you do that reality
Mm,
TV stuff. And, like, we all see it now, we all recognize it. They're always trying to run an angle of, like, why should the audience feel sorry for you? And the boys,
yeah.
Pop had recently passed away, and they kept bringing that up in interviews.
Mm,
And the boys were like, "No, we're not gonna use this.
mm,
We didn't wanna use this, like, feel sorry for us, so vote for us kinda thing. We were really against
yeah.
that." And they kept just trying for an angle like, "Has anyone else in your family died?" Or, "You guys are struggling to live in any way?" Or, like, they're always looking for and we just didn't give give 'em anything. We just gave them nothing,
Yeah.
like, just like,
That's
"Nah,
probably why they wrote you out. That's why they wrote you out, bro.
yeah,
They're like, they're
could
not
be,
doing
yeah,
what they want you to do.
yeah, because everyone else had a sob story. Everyone else was like someone had cancer and someone had their mum had died and or like their mum was in hospital. It was always something like that, and we just didn't give it to them.
Mm,
So that was an
yeah.
interesting thing. Yeah.
How about we just play good music and you vote for us because we make good music? How
It
about
wasn't
just that?
it
Like,
wasn't good enough for him, but it was good enough for the voters. Tassie really got behind us. Um, yeah, the voting was mental. Like we just couldn't believe the support we'd got from
mm,
Tassie, and it probably comes back to all the gigs we'd done. Like, but yeah,
yeah,
people
of course.
really rallied behind us, and it was just such a beautiful thing to see. Like, forever grateful for that.
Yeah, that must have been a great moment in your life to
Oh,
go through that experience and see that type of support.
yeah. Most nervous I've ever been playing on that stage for those 2 minutes.
I reckon. Did you feel like you had the imposter syndrome then too? Was that hitting you when you were in there or when you came off,
Not
or was
quite.
the
No, it
feedback
was
you were
just us
getting?
doing our thing still. It was just, it was just clowning around, like, I was just like, "Yeah, let's just go and do this cool thing." Like, we played at Irish Murphys last week, and now we're playing on national TV. Like, what a laugh.
Mm,
Like, what a this is incredible. We always
yeah.
took it seriously, but it was always just like, it's just us doing our thing, It's just we just do what we do,
Yeah.
and, I will say that something I've learned over the years is the bigger the gig, the harder and more uncomfortable you're gonna be doing it for a number of
Mm,
factors. Like, for one, it was the first time we'd ever been on in-ear monitors because there's no fallback,
mm,
and we were used to playing in rooms where you literally didn't need it. Like, I'd never had
mm.
fallback in my life, didn't need it. I was standing next to my guitar amp anyway, I can hear what I'm doing. And suddenly
Yeah.
you're on in-ears, and in-ears as a guitarist for me have always been horrendous, like the worst experience. It just sounds terrible. So all of a sudden
Damn.
you've got to do the best performance of your life whilst also being the most uncomfortable you've ever been on stage. And it was this real thing
Mm,
of like, okay, you're playing with the pros now, like you've got to really ignore that and get through it. And that's something that's still happening now. Like, we played Tamworth Country Music Festival was just on, and me and the boys, we opened the Golden Guitars award ceremony. Like, we
mhm,
opened that, and we're quite seasoned now. We come to expect those kind of things to go wrong, and your in-ear mix is going to be wrong, and you know it's happening live. It's being streamed. It's a big deal. There's no like stopping and starting again. Um,
mhm.
and sure enough, we walked out. I had someone else's in-ear mix. Couldn't hear my guitar at all, and I was just like,
Oh my god.
"But it's this kind of thing happens so much." Like, when it happened,
Yeah.
I was like, "Of course." Like, why did you expect it to be right?
Of
But
course it did.
yeah, of course it did. And it's just you just go, "I'm a pro, like, I'm just gonna get through this, like, this is what it is."
Mm,
Don't let them see that, like, just carry on with
mm,
it and
mm.
make it look awesome. Like, do your job, just do your job.
Yeah.
Don't whinge about this, be like don't be on stage going, "Oh, my ears, oh," and pointing, and, the
Mhm.
the guy that's side of stage that's doing the ears, he was so far away from where I was like, I might as well just turn it off and just carry on, get on with it. So that was an
Yeah.
introduction to having to get through that, and it's happened so much since then. There's so many awkward situations where you show up for gigs, and it's a big deal, or it'll be on TV, or it's something big. It might be the morning show, and you go to do it, and it's wrong, and it's like, well, guess what? You've got to make it look like it's awesome. Like, you've got no
Mm.
option. Like, this is it. It's happening. So yeah.
People would have no idea about that, hey, like, you
That's the
think
idea. You're not supposed to know those
yeah,
things.
they'd have no idea. But it's crazy how often, even with big productions and big things like that, things aren't perfect and people aren't. Or you think like a big concert, they're all going to be all over it. They're going to have people all who that's their job to make sure
If
that it
it's
works, and then you realize that it's
if it's
not the
your
case.
crew, yeah, no, those things are really important. If it's your crew, if you're big enough to have your own crew and you've got your monitors guy and your front of house guy that you trust, you'll probably be right. Um, if not, if you're just meeting the front of house guy that day, or if you're meeting the monitor guy that day, you're screwed. Like, it's gonna go wrong. It's gonna like,
Wow,
um, and that's
that's
that's how the
insane.
game is. Like that, you not only have to be good at what you're doing, you've got to be good at what you're doing in the worst circumstances, like the most nerve-wracking
Mm,
things. We've always joked, and I'd stand by this. I reckon the worst gig in Australia to get would be the AFL Grand Final, because
mm,
every year that gig seems to go wrong. And one guy who did really well, if you watch, it's probably still on YouTube. Brian Adams played AFL Grand Final, and if you go
mhm.
back and
I think
watch
I
that,
remember that.
yeah, if you go back and watch that, he's such a pro, man. Go back and watch that. They didn't cue him. No one told him when to go. So, but he just stood there. He was just like, "I'm cool. I'm I'm ready when you are."
Wow.
And the cameras all switched to him, and there was a long, awkward pause. He just waited. He was just like, "It's not right yet." Like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
watch that with those glasses on,
I'll go
recognizing that something went wrong, and just watch how he reacts to that. It's such a pro.
Wow, I'll have to go check that. It should be on YouTube, surely. I'll go and check
Yeah,
that
it
out.
probably still is, yeah.
You would think that these big things, man, that they could just how do they not? How do they not
Opposite. It's the
figure it
opposite.
out to
It's
make
because
it
it's
work?
yeah, I don't know. It's because there's so much else going on. Like, it's the AFL Grand Final, like, the music isn't a it's a big deal, but it's not a priority.
Yeah.
And it's always throw together. Like, you probably got up at, for us, for most of those things, you would have got up at 4 a.m. to catch the 6 a.m. out of Hobart to then get in a van and drive for a couple of hours to get or whatever. There probably wasn't a
Mm.
rehearsal. There might have been a line check. The the chances of you getting your in-ear mix is pretty low. Like, it's all rush, rush, rush. And that's why only the best people shine in that, because you've just got there's no point trying to get comfortable. It's not going to happen. Like, there's no time for that.
Yeah.
The
That's
budget
so
isn't there. It's
interesting.
not like you can show up the day before and set it all up really well and get a sound check and get to know everyone. And that isn't happening. You might have even just got there like 2 hours before the actual gig, and you're just going to go and do it. And what you get is
Yeah.
what you get.
It's so I think it's good for people to know that because like it's so I feel like it's so I guess people could have a bit more grace in how they appreciate people who perform live, knowing that they're not performing under the best conditions. When you would think everything would be pre-planned, set up, perfection.
Uh,
You're walking out there, you've just come
yeah.
out of a massage and a bubble bath, you're ready to go, like you're all prepped,
Oh,
like
hey, man.
let's go, it's time to perform,
No,
like,
yeah.
but it's not
No,
the case.
no, you haven't even had a good night's sleep. Like I said, you got up at
Oh,
4:30
Jesus.
to catch the plane. Like, you're in your worst shape, you could possibly be. And that's for a lot of gigs too. Like, when we're touring for that first Friday show, or, whenever the first show is, we definitely got up at 4:30 that day to get to that gig.
Yeah,
And you're not on stage till 9:30, 10 o'clock. Like, it's been a long day. You've been on a
yeah,
plane and in a van for ages. You're in the worst possible shape. You just got to learn to adapt to that. And you're gonna make mistakes. You can't just like show up like that and just be perfect. You're gonna make mistakes.
mm,
Just go easy on yourself, and just like don't let anyone see that. Don't let anyone
yeah.
recognize that you're mentally pretty screwed.
That's interesting. So, okay, kind of branching off that then, right? Have you had, and I'm sure you probably have, but um, like scenarios where you have to go up on stage and just something in your personal life is just falling down around you, and you just have to like put that out of your brain and go up and
Yeah,
I mean, how often does that happen? Is that happening
yeah,
all the time?
yeah. I mean, but yeah. Anytime something goes wrong near a weekend, you're on stage thinking about it. Um,
Yeah.
you've right. There's a great story. We're doing a gig. I think it was a little pub show in Queensland somewhere on the coast, and it was just before the gig, and Nick's wife called. They just bought a new house. Like, they moved in the
Um,
week before. Just bought this new house, and we're probably half hour from going on stage. Like, the opening act is on. Nick's wife calls and said the toilet fell through the floor. Like, the floorboards gave way in their new house.
oh
There's a huge hole in the floor now, and now the toilet's on the dirt, like under the
my
house.
God.
And she
Oh my God.
rang him and told him that. I was like, great, now we've got to go do a gig. And Nick's in the most foul mood you
No.
can imagine, and it almost ruined the gig. And you could tell morale was low. And like, it's harder for
Mm,
frontmen it's easy for me because I don't have a microphone. I don't address the crowd. I just have to play guitar. So it's so
yeah.
much easier for me to deal with stuff like that. But Nick's like front man. And all he can think about is like, I spent all my money on this house. I've got nothing left. And now there's a hole in the
Yeah.
bathroom floor and we've got no toilet. And,
Oh
he's thinking about
man.
insurance and who am I going to call to get up there? And like, now my
He can't
wife's,
be there to help.
can't be there to help. Wife's there alone, like dealing with this. And it nearly ruined the gig. Honestly, it was a couple of
Oh
moments
man.
where you could tell Nick was just about to crack. And then we've got this great drummer, Dave Roberto. He's phenomenal. Like, he's just the best guy around. We were playing one of these songs, and it's a pretty straightforward song. Doesn't have much flamboyance in it. It's just a straight one that we left in the set for dancing. It's an old one. He did this mental drum fill in it that went on for way too long, and it cracked us all out, and it broke the tension, and the rest of the gig was great. Like, he
That's
was just
cool.
like, "I've got to do something to improve morale," and he just did this stupid thing on drums, and then the whole room erupted. It was like this
Yeah.
big, like it's like everyone could feel the tension. Something was wrong, no one could put their finger on it. Dave did that, we all started laughing, crowd started laughing, rest of the gig was brilliant. So, yeah, just I don't know, just hope that you've got a cool drummer, I guess.
Yeah, that's ama he saved the day. What a hero,
He
bro.
saved the
What a
day, and
hero.
it was amazing.
Oh, man. I tell you what, I had an incident like that just last week. I had a really intense, like, just drama that I had to deal with right before a podcast, and I'm,
Yeah,
like, coming into this podcast, I'm like, "I can't I don't wanna reschedule on this guy." He's in America. I spoke to Nate Feathers, a guy from, he lives in, Nashville, and we're talking about
cool.
parenting, and I'm like, I was so excited to talk to him, and then all this crap happened right before it, literally, like, half an hour before it. I'm like, mentally, I'm just like, I'm gonna lose it,
Yeah,
and I just had to be like, no, I just have to, and then get involved in this conversation. And then I came out of that podcast going, man, if had have been mentally right, I would have asked this, I would have talked about this, and I had that that thought process play out. It ended up being a great podcast, but me personally, I felt like that was tough because I was struggling mentally and
yeah,
also
yeah.
forgetting things that I wanted to talk about, and just on a smaller scale, I can't imagine being out in front of a live crowd,
Yeah, but
having
you
to try
got
to
through
pull
it,
it
like
together and
yeah,
got through it.
you've got to be
And
easy on
you
yourself
know,
when it's like that, you're only a human, you're gonna cracks are gonna show, but, um,
yeah,
yeah, you just gotta do your best. If you did your best, then you did it, like, you've done it,
yeah. And
Um,
I get that thing in my mind where everything has to be perfect when you do it, but it's never going to be perfect. There's
oh,
never going to be a
perfection,
perfect
yeah.
moment. You've just got to do it
Yeah,
regardless, right?
yeah, I'm getting better at that. Like, I recorded an EP last year, first song's out, there's another 4 to come, and it just got to the point where I had to call it. I was like, "This is taking way too long for me to chase perfection. Just just go.
Mhm.
Just pull the trigger on it, get it mastered, let's go." And the mixes still aren't
Yeah.
right. To me, they're not right, but the songs have feeling
Hmm.
in them. When I crank them up, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that feels good. Like, that's good enough. Like,
Yeah.
let's go."
Yeah.
Actually, we
That's a
did
tough line to walk. Come
yeah,
on, please.
I was just gonna say we did a festival, it's just along the same lines. We did this festival in, just outside of Canberra recently, and it was a big festival. It was the first time they'd had it, and they did it properly, and they got all the big acts. They got Kerno, they spent the money, and they got the people there. There was about, I think, 2.5, 3,000 people there, and it was on
Nice.
this oval, and I got COVID that weekend. I didn't know at the time. I just felt terrible, and well, we did a gig before the night before, and I was like, "Oh, man, I'm not feeling good at all." Got through the gig, and then I got back to the hotel. I started shivering, it's mad temperature, and I felt really fatigued. Um, got in the van the next day, and it was a 3-hour drive to Canberra to this thing, and I was lying in the back of the van. I couldn't breathe properly. Like, I was just in the van. I couldn't get up, and I kind of stayed there. We got to the hotel. I managed to get myself into bed. The boys gave me my own room. They were like, "You go in there, turn the lights off, try to get a bit of sleep." Um, got back in the van, still like struggling for breath, right up until like 5 minutes before we were due on stage. I barely got through sound check. I was like lying on the stage, just like playing when everyone was like, Brody guitar. I'm like just making noise. 5 minutes before the gig, I climb, I pulled myself out of the van, put my professional shoes on, and we just went and did it. And the boys, they were really worried about me. I was like, I need to show everyone that I can do this. I need to really pull it together. Gathered all my
Wow.
strength. First opening song, I'd told the lighting guy to build me um, a staircase off the stage and put a road case up on, like, it was an outdoor stage with a huge the big subs in front of the stage, and if you stood on the subs, you're quite high. You're high over everyone, but you're also right in front of them. You're right on the crowd barrier. And I was like,
Nice.
I'm going to go out there at some point, build me if you could throw together a little staircase. First song solo, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do this. So as a show of strength, and just to convince myself this was going to be an okay gig and I could do it. Straight up onto the PA, did this huge solo right in front of everyone. Couldn't really hear what was going on. just big, and it was a real moment. It was like of pulling myself because the boys had seen me lying in the van, like not being able to breathe properly, like an hour ago, and it put them all at
Yeah.
ease. That was like a real moment, like, and after doing that, I was like, yeah, no, I can do this. Like, we can just get through this gig and worry about what happens after, you know.
Yeah, I'll die after. Die
Yeah,
after the
if
gig.
I
Just
die
get
after
through it.
this, then it's fine. I've done my job, you know, and they really
That
appreciated
was
it.
your moment. That was your moment as the drummer to show everybody.
Yeah,
You made them feel
exactly. It
comfortable.
was like,
That was your drummer moment.
yeah, pulled it together, and everyone was like, "Oh man, that was a real pro move." Like, we all felt cool about the gig after that. I was like, "Thank God." But yeah,
Yes. Hero
yeah, and that
moment.
that
I
feels
like that.
awesome. Like, you know, I felt terrible the rest of the day, all the day leading up to that. But after that moment was like, "Oh, I feel awesome now." Like, even though my
Mm.
health's at rock bottom, like, I just pulled off this wicked thing. Like, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, that's really cool, mate. That's like one of those moments that I reckon will stick with you forever to get through something
Yeah,
like adversity like that, to get
yeah.
up there and still do it. Especially because how long was the gig like? How long did you have to freaking keep it up for?
I think it was a 50-hour set. I think it was, yeah. There was quite a few moments
Wow.
where I had to had to just, like, walk back to the drum riser and just lean on it and just catch my breath.
Wow.
"Okay, 10 songs to go. Let's do it. Let's do it."
Oh,
But,
yeah, countdown to the songs when you
yeah,
got the countdown going, 10
yeah,
songs.
I was
I said
counting
50
down.
minutes. Okay,
Yeah, I
yeah.
was just,
Far out.
yeah, but it was like, you
Um
know, even when you've got nothing to give, you actually sometimes you do have a bit left, you know?
Mm. I think that's a great lesson because I relate that back to, when I used to be into basketball. I remember Michael Jordan playing one of his best games when he had the flu. Like he came into the game crook
Yeah,
as a dog. He ended up
yeah,
playing one of the best performances, and he showed. And that always stuck with me. I'm like, you know, you could be crook, but if you just persevere and push through everything that's hard when you don't want to do it, sometimes that's when the best things happen,
yeah,
or you really prove to yourself that you have more in you than you think you do.
yeah.
So that's
What a
cool. That's
great
like one of your
yeah.
moments where you did that. That's so cool.
Certainly
So
wasn't the best
okay,
gig of my
just
life,
as
I
long
mean,
as you got through it,
that's next level.
as long as you,
Yeah. If I'd gone out there and played the best, done the best guitar playing I'd ever done in my life, I'd be like, "Who am I now? What is this?" But yeah, that certainly
yeah.
wasn't the case.
I'm sure no one in the crowd noticed.
Yeah,
On
yeah,
a question on that, when
yeah.
so when you can't hear properly, what are you playing off? Are you playing off feel of doing it so often, or what keeps you in rhythm? Like, how do you keep with it when you can't hear properly?
Um, yeah, it's yeah, just doing your best. Like, sometimes, yeah, like, in that, obviously, I can't hear what's coming off stage, and I can't hear my
Hmm.
foldback because I'm now not on the stage anymore. I can sorta hear front of house a little bit, um,
Yeah.
kinda going off that. I always wear earplugs because I can hear better with earplugs in. Sometimes
Hmm.
one of them will work its way out and be in the middle of something. It's just,
Yeah.
we've been doing that show for quite a while. That was a song we're very familiar with, so it wasn't
Mm.
too difficult. Um, if it was a new song and it was the first time we were playing it, I wouldn't have done that. I would have stayed close to my safe areas, you know, like where I could hear stuff.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, that just happens quite often. You just sort of do the best, just tune into whatever you can tune into, or play from memory or play
Wow.
from feel. Um,
Yeah. Feel right. I
yeah,
would
it just
imagine
takes
you just the repetitions that you've put in already.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You just do your best. I don't know what else to say really. It's just a,
Well,
um
it's just so interesting. As someone who doesn't like, who would, that sounds like so scary to me to be able to having to play in front of all these people. And if you can't hear properly, like
yeah,
when you're playing music that you need to hear, you would think that must be just a real skill you have to build,
yeah. Well,
or
you're not
have.
gonna fall out of time because, you know, the groove is everywhere. It's permeating the entire venue. You're probably not gonna get out of time. Um, yeah, just bloody do it.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. Now, as we move on then, so you've gone from Australia's Got Talent. You've now got the deal to go with Kerno. Now, shout out, because when you came over to Perth, you got us tickets to come see you. We loved it. Like, now, we weren't really into country music back then, but we loved the show. Like, the feel, the vibe, the energy, the
Yeah,
crowd
you
that
get it,
was
right?
there with
Like, it's great
men.
fun.
Yeah, you get into it. Yeah, and like we actually like country music more now, as the years have gone on. But like, just being at the show, like, we came out of there buzzing, mate. Like, as someone who
Yeah,
hasn't
it's
been to
energy.
shows, like, we loved it. Like, we thought you were a god on stage, just busting out. Like, it was awesome. It was such a fun thing to. It was just so fun for us to experience, and for me to just see you, someone I've known all my life, to just be chasing their dream, living the dream, or what was the dream at the time, and actually just being in it was just so cool. Like, I felt like I could do anything coming out of that, seeing you
Wonderful.
do that. It was such a cool show, man. Like, it was such a great experience. And Kerno, he's a pro too. Like,
It's a real deal,
he
man.
seemed like a
Yeah.
real, yeah, he seems like the real deal for sure.
Yeah, he is, man.
So
He's the king.
from there, then, I kind of want to ask you about, so when you started to get to the point where you had realized you'd lost the passion for playing guitar, like you had, um, like, mentally, how tough was that, trying to come to the grips of, like, talking with the boys about what you wanted to do? Like, how did you navigate that terrain before you talked to them and made the decision that doing now is what you wanted to do?
Yeah,
Was that
it
tough?
was a long it wasn't a sudden thing. It was like, "Fine, I don't wanna practice guitar anymore. Let's just" and after that, I just focused on trying to be the most tasteful guitar player I could be, and that was really quite rewarding. Like,
Okay.
instead of trying to be this shred guy, just trying to play tastefully, playing melodies people would remember and, just being
Yeah.
faithful to the song and maybe playing a bit less than I, had thought was the cool thing to do. I play a
Hmm.
lot less than I did when we first started. Like, I was always trying to look for pockets to put a million notes into. After that,
Hmm.
yeah, I'll play around with some songwriting, I'll do some singing. I didn't even tell the boys I was singing, I was getting lessons. I didn't tell anyone, I just did it. Um,
Yep.
Started writing some tunes and really enjoyed that, and then I think I put a video of me playing a Justin Bieber song actually on acoustic, and everyone was like, "Whoa, what the hell's this?" I was like, "Yeah, I've been working on this." So, yeah, it was a
Nice.
gradual thing, and then I got because I sing now, so I get to do a few more sort of harmonies and stuff on stage, which was really cool. Like, I get to input more into the show. It's Tom and
Hmm.
I doing BVs and gang vocals and stuff. So that was a cool thing to step up to. That was really nice.
Nice.
Um, then yeah, then it was just like I wanna do some of my own music. So I kinda
Mm.
just it was another thing that I did without telling anyone. I did a little thing, I think I put it on SoundCloud, I think it's still there. Did a little EP of some fun songs that I'd written and recorded them at home, just dabbling in that world, just put it out.
Yeah.
Didn't and that ruffled a few feathers in the band and, fair enough,
Mm.
like, that's a valid reaction. And then, obviously my dedication to the band was slightly questioned.
Mhm.
And then we were looking at moving to America. We'd spent quite a lot of time in Nashville. We'd spent 8 months living in Nashville, writing and touring around the Midwest and stuff like that, and Steve was working his contacts hard and trying to do all this stuff. There was a lot going on. Um,
Mhm.
and every time we went there, I liked it less and less. And the last time we
Mhm.
were there for the 6 weeks, my mental health, I was just like, I hated it. Like,
Really?
yeah, I hated it so much. And, Steve had already called me and said, "What are you doing? Like, what do you wanna
Mm.
do with music? Do you staying in this band or what?" I was like, "Yeah, no, I wanna do both, mate. I wanna create my own stuff, and I like being in the Wolf Brothers." Like, and it was true. I liked doing both things.
Mhm.
And, so yeah, it was a little rocky there. And then the last time we went to Nashville, I got off the plane and I got on the escalator, and there's always, like, in LAX when you, um, get off the thing, there's a picture of the president, the serving president up above as you go down the escalator through customs. And I looked up at that and I was just like, I'm already ready to go home. And we were there for 6 weeks. Um,
Mm.
I think it was mostly a writing trip. I think that, yeah, it was mostly writing. And I didn't
Yeah.
like co-writing. I didn't, it was such a hassle trying to fit myself into that scene. I found it so hard
Mm,
to write, to the point where I thought I wasn't any good at it. But then I was like, well, when I do my own stuff, it's easier than this. So
mm,
that started to click. It was like, when I'm on my own, this isn't this hard. Um,
mm,
and I started noticing a lot of, and you can say this about any genre, but
mm,
everyone was chasing the same handful of songs. There was about 4 or 5 songs that everyone was writing with the same
mm,
topics, and I just didn't spark anything in me. I was fucking, I don't like this.
mm,
Um, and that caused that started the domino effect. And it was an awful time in my life because I was looking at, I was like, what do I do? Do I leave the Wolf Brothers, this thing that I'd spent my entire life
mm.
building and being a part
Yeah.
of? I was a founding member, and these are my mates. And I was having a really hard time dealing with that. And I was calling my mum every day, but I was calling my mate Bree back home, and she'd been a great supporter of pushing me doing my own music. She's a wonderful friend of mine. I was calling everyone, and nobody had the answer. It had to come down to me. Like, nobody,
Mm,
even mum was like, "You've got to do what's best for you." I was like, "I don't know what that is." She's like, "You've got to figure it out." Everyone said
mm,
that. Nobody could help me. Nobody could say, "Do this," because it was such a huge
mm,
decision. But Bree said to me, she's like, "I can see what's going to happen. You're going to get back to Australia, and it'll click. Like, when you get home, you'll see it clearly, and it'll click." And I was
mm.
just like, I was, really finding it hard. And she was right. We got back home. We flew home from Nashville straight to one of my favorite festivals, Groundwater Festival. Best thing in Australia. Love that gig.
Nice.
And they gave us all, like, they give you all, everyone gets their own sort of hotel room on the Gold Coast for that festival. And I got in on my own. I went to bed, fully jet lagged. Got up next day and I felt awesome. I was like, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to chase my own thing.
Nice.
Yeah. I'd made a
Yes.
decision then and there after getting off that plane. I was just like, yeah, I see it now. Like, I'm
Wow.
happy here. And they're a huge part of going to and from America so much. We went up to Canada. We played the Calgary Stampede in Canada, and we were hanging out with Gord Bamford. Hated all that. Just couldn't do, and that's where we were going to move. And we were having discussions at the dinner table. We were all living in an Airbnb up there, and Steve was with us, about how that was going to look and what outcomes we were chasing by moving to America. And I sat there, didn't say a word. I was just like, I don't want to live here. I don't like living
Mm,
here. Like, I don't know why. I loved the people we met. I've got some good friends over in Nashville still. Didn't want to live there. Just couldn't handle it.
mm.
And it really, really broke me. So that was a real
Was
key
it the
thing.
life? Was it the lifestyle, the way it is, or was it more just where you were at within
Heart
chasing
wasn't
your
there,
own?
dude. Yeah, it just, the
Mm,
scene. I was like, I don't belong in this scene. I don't think. And it was
mm,
becoming more evident because I was writing my album at the time. And I was just, you know what, I've got to do what my heart says to do. So,
mm,
so I spoke to Steve about this in Nashville. I was like, I can't do this, man. Like, I'm really struggling, and I broke down and cried in front of Steve and his wife, and they were really worried about. Everyone was actually really worried about me. Like, it wasn't a me versus them. They were very supportive. They wanted to see me
yeah,
happy. So that
yeah,
when I finally came to them and said, I've got to step back. I still want to play guitar. I still love doing the gigs, but I've got to step back out of this business. I don't belong here.
mm,
Everyone was like, do what's best for you, man. Like, we love you.
mm,
Just go and chase something. So that was really nice.
mm,
It was a very emotional time, but and I never
mm.
regretted it too. I thought I would, and I never did.
Yeah, wow, mate. That's such a life-changing, like, because looking at it from the outside, and you could go, look, you've got it all set. You're in this band. You guys are blowing up. You like, you can move to America. You've all these massive things happening.
Yeah.
But if something's not right in
Mm.
here, and if it's not what you truly want to do, I don't think it works for anyone. That's how you see like a lot of celebrities who just crash out and ruin their lives. You look at it from the outside and you think they've got everything going for them, but if it's not right in the heart of what they really
Mm.
want to do, it just life finds a way to just make it not work, I guess. And the fact that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
had the courage to like to step
Yes.
away from it. I mean, I say it take a lot of courage to step away from that, like, to go
Yeah, it was
into
a big deal.
uncertainty of having to do your own thing, right? Like,
Yeah,
were you
and it was
scared of
right.
that?
Yeah, it was terrifying, and it was right when the boys were looking at exiting their ABC deal and signing with BMG, and we were going into the, BMG office in Nashville. Like, this is big time, like, label
Mm,
stuff, and we'd play for them, and we'd write in the office with their writers, and they were pretty like, the American guys seemed quite happy that they were getting this Australian band on board, and they were like, "We love your stuff, we're looking forward to having you as part of this." That deal didn't work out as it looked, but at the time, it was like, the boys are on the cusp of something massive, and I'm leaving.
mhm.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, what
Yeah,
am I doing?
100%.
Like, and that just made it so much
Wow.
harder. But yeah, like I said, got home, got off the plane, spent a night on my own on the Gold Coast, just in a nice hotel, and I was just like, I know what I'm doing. And then I went and
Yeah.
had a chat with Nat at ABC. I wasn't supposed to do this. We weren't supposed to talk to ABC because the boys were still, there was still a thing going on with contracts and stuff, and that,
Mhm.
we all agreed on the plane on the way back, don't go and talk to the ABC people. What did I do? Went and spoke to Nat, and she gave me a solo deal for my music
Wow.
to help, because she's a beautiful human. Nat Waller, head of ABC Music, just she's helped me out so much. I still love that woman. Um,
Wow.
and she, she wanted to talk about the boys leaving. I was like, I can't really do that, but yeah, I'm in turmoil. Please help me. And so she sort of looked after me there because she's got a big heart. And yeah, I
Wow.
was on my way. That was kind of the start of it.
Wow. And then you finally so she gave you a deal? Like, did you have to,
Yeah, it wasn't a big it was a distribution deal. So basically I delivered my music to ABC, and they distributed it, put it across all the platforms. That was it. It wasn't any big promotion thing. It wasn't it was just so that I didn't have to use like the um the distribution services that everybody else uses. As
yeah.
having someone like that in your corner is really, really handy, because you just deliver the
Mm.
music, you deliver the masters, and then tell them the release date, and then it's up. You don't have to worry
Yeah,
about
wow.
mucking around with any of that. So that was really nice, and that made my heart soar. Like, when I got offered that, I got really excited, even though it wasn't a big deal, even though it wasn't like, "Oh, you're gonna be this whole thing." It was like, "Hey, someone else is willing to facilitate your music and help you along with it." That made me really buzz, and I was like, "Well, I've got to follow
Mhm.
that. That's a strong indicator that that's the thing to follow."
Yeah. And you just knew, right? You just knew in your heart that that was the right decision
Yeah,
to do.
yeah,
Wow. So
yeah. I mean,
what year was that? What year was that? What
that was 2019, 2019, I think.
wow.
Yeah, and then I put my album out the week COVID hit Australia.
Oh, far out.
I mean,
Oh, man.
I don't know what impact that had. I mean, at the time, like, I put
Yeah.
the album out and I didn't know how to promote it. I didn't know what to do with it. I was really terrible at socials, so I don't feel like it affected me that much. I feel like the response for that would have been the same no matter what. But I learnt a lot since then, and I have all that stuff under control. But yeah, just whatever.
Look at COVID and everything's gone in turmoil and people's lives gone out of control.
Yeah.
Holy
Oh, sorry,
moly.
that was the EP. That's right. That was the EP, and I wrote the album during COVID. So, but yeah,
Okay.
everything was in turmoil. Put an EP out. There was a bit of buzz around it, and everyone was like, "Oh, I can't believe you're doing music." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a thing." And then a week later, it was like, "Now you've got no gigs. Like, a year's worth of gigs just got cancelled. You've got no work."
Mm.
I moved back home with mum and dad. Like, I just fell back to the last, fortress that I had. It was just like,
Oh my
man, things really
God.
spun around there. But that's
COVID.
everybody's. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
we
want to
were
talk
out
about
of work
COVID, man.
for
That
12
we
weeks.
did so much bitching about that I'm done with it. I don't care anymore.
Yeah. I think, look, we can't change anything about it now, right? We can only move forward. I look at it like this, right? We were out of work for 12 weeks and we had to draw from our super and everything. Like, we were doing it tough.
Yeah, it's rough.
But from that is when I had nothing to do at home and I took one of these things that I collect at and started taking photos of it. And from
Yeah.
that led to me doing photography on Instagram, which led to creating a YouTube channel, which led to now having 2 YouTube channels and a podcast. Like, so if that hadn't happened, maybe I would never have thought to take a photo because I had nothing else to do. So
Yeah.
I look at it like that. For me, it gave me an opportunity and helped me find the actual path that I want to go on,
Yeah.
which is what I'm chasing now. So as much as there's a lot of stuff with that I hated and was really tough, it gave me this. It
Yeah,
gave me
yeah,
this.
opportunities come out of nowhere, dude, like, yeah, success might not look how you thought it looked from day one, and the path you think you might be on, it's probably gonna take a couple of turns you don't see coming, but you've gotta, make the most of that opportunity,
Yeah, and look, that's a big lesson I learned from it. It's like, every time something goes wrong, there's an opportunity in there for something to go
Mm,
right,
yeah,
in another
definitely.
direction, or
Yeah.
it's like a sign to do something else, or maybe whatever. So, oh man, so from that, how hard was that time then? So you moved back home, and you're writing your album. Do you think that looking back on it now, did that help you get the album to where you wanted it to be, or um,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was a really productive time having moved back home. Did a lot of writing, did a lot of practice, hung out with, um a mate in a studio, and we recorded the album. I, got some of my other mates involved.
mhm,
It was actually not as bad as it was only bad when we tried to work. When I tried to go out and do gigs, we'd get quarantined all the time and all that nonsense.
mhm,
But, as far as having time to be productive, and there was government stimulus there, that was look, it was only terrible because I didn't know how long it was gonna go for. Like, if it was
mm,
gonna happen again and
that's
someone was
right.
like, "This is gonna go for this long, and then you're gonna end up going back to being a tradie as well as gigs that will come back, like, you're gonna be fine." I would've been like, "Oh,
Mm,
brilliant," like, then everything's fine, like, I'm just being super productive,
yeah,
writing and making these demos and, doing all this stuff. It's actually, in hindsight, it was a good opportunity.
yeah. That's how that led me to make time for being
Yeah,
creative and actually just really falling in love with just, creating stuff, making things, filming things,
yeah.
just trying to make things. I think that's when I look back on it, when I did music, that was what I loved doing. I liked the making of it. Like, I liked sitting down to write. I liked making the beats. I liked the time spent just being creative, and then you
Yeah,
have something to show for it after that you can then go show to people. That's
yeah,
kind of like the same thing I do with these videos, the
yeah,
toy photography stuff. It's just I love being involved in the making of. That's a way I like to spend my time, as opposed to going out and going to the pub or going out and doing these other things. I like spending my time tinkering and making things,
yeah.
and thinking and just learning new skills like editing, lighting, filming, all those things that come with it, as I'm sure. And that's what I wanted to ask you, like, making the switch to doing your own music, like, has the journey been awesome, like learning all the different things you have to
Oh,
do with like vocals and
dude,
recording and
yeah,
mixing and
yeah,
like, how many
just
more
no.
skills do you think you've learned since you started doing that?
Yeah, no regrets at all. No regrets at all. Yeah, like getting my head across a door, like a DAW, like Logic. Um, yeah, like that's freedom too, because when I record music, I do most of it at home, and then I take the demos, um, to a studio or to a producer, and we build off the demos. So the songs are already
Mhm,
mostly done. I'll just get Dave to cut some drums, and I got Matt Fell to do my last one, multi award winning producer, musician. Went up
wow.
there with him, just got him to just said, "Work your magic over it, mate. Most of the song's done. Like, just do your thing." And he did his thing. And then I got Klaus Hill to master it. Klaus Hill's like a pretty well celebrated mastering engineer. Does like Pinau and like a lot of electronic music stuff. And he killed that. So
Mhm,
yeah, like it's freedom because I don't have to pay anyone for that extra studio time for me to be recording. I can do all that here. I've got the skills and the equipment to do that. I didn't need a whole lot of. You don't need a whole lot of stuff to get
mm,
demos down. You know, yeah, the skills have been awesome, especially songwriting too. Like songwriting has been such a rewarding thing. It's a pain in the
mm,
ass sometimes because you don't always write something that you love, but on the day you
mm,
do, um, oh my God, like I've cried before. Like I've been so into something that I've just written, and it's been so rewarding
Mm.
to think that like, geez, like a couple of hours ago, this song didn't exist. And now I've got this
Mm.
wonderful thing that I've made from nothing, that I really love and that really tells a story and spurs emotion in me. Like, this is
Yeah.
just incredible. Like, this is the coolest thing
Yeah.
ever. And then you get to work up a demo and make it, and you get to bring it to life, and just spend hours sitting here till 1 a.m. just playing around with effects and putting new things in. And I
Yeah.
love doing backing vocals. I'll spend a day. That's my favorite day, is doing BVs, because I get to do like some songs. I think there was a King B song I did. I have a duo called King B, by the way, where it's me and a DJ producer. When we do, what we do is more, probably a little more electronic. But one of those
Yeah.
tracks, I sent it to Brendan because he produces that. I sent it to Brendan with 140 something vocal tracks of
Wow.
just all me singing, because the BVs were so thick and like just this huge choir. Like, I love that, making that sound. I couldn't do that before. That's I love that
Mm.
so much, dude. Like, that's kind of what I'm here for.
Yeah, it's the create mate, it's the creative process. It's so fun to talk to other creative people because it's so hard trying to explain to people who aren't necessarily thinking about being who aren't into making stuff like that. Like I look at life this way, like, at the end of the day, what's life about? It's about, for me, it's about being my family, being there for my daughter, raising my daughter, loving my wife. And then the rest of it is, what am I going to remember at the end of my life? It's remembering how much or spending my life doing things that really bring me joy, and I really try to hone in on focus on experiencing as much joy as I can. And things that bring me joy is being creative, whether it's editing photos, whether it's filming something or coming up with an idea that I've never seen anyone else do that I get to show to people, whether it be on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and then getting that feedback of like, that's helped someone with this, or that's given them an idea to be creative, or they want to start a YouTube channel or a podcast now, or like, I first interviewed a good friend, Rob Greaves, my first episode of Create the Courage podcast. He's now launched a podcast, and I just love that. I'm like, he probably would have done it anyway. But the fact that like we got to chat about it and I got to be
Yeah,
involved with talking to him about thinking about doing it, and then to see him do it, like that's so rewarding for me. It's
yeah, that's
just,
cool, isn't it?
I think I've always loved writers, singers, filmmakers, artists, painters. I love people who take the time to live in that world and create something for other people, because that's what art is to me. Music, you listen to music to feel better or to feel sad or to accentuate the feelings you already have, whether it's music in films to highlight moments or bring emotion, whatever it is. I just love being involved in everything creative. And I can just imagine, because when I used to do the music back in the day, I used to love sitting up till 3 or 4 in the morning trying to just get a drum beat right, or just trying to get like the echo on a chorus, like a backing track or whatever, on my little shitty studio mic. But the joy I had from that was just, those are the memories, I guess, that that I remember, is just the fun times being creative. And
Yeah,
the fact that you feel the same way about that, I love that, mate. And I hope that inspires more people to, if they have a passion, whether it be writing or whether you want to write a book or write music or make music, to just do it, because the joy it can bring you um, can change your life in other ways.
yeah, yeah. Just
Like,
find the inspiration, find the thing that really gets you buzzing, um,
yeah,
and then do your own version of that. And it's fine. It's
yeah,
fine if it's song like it's going to be the same for everything, but strictly songwriting, it's fine to write terrible songs. Get them out, clear the pipe, like just get them out of the way, because there's a good one lined up somewhere, and you'll get to it.
mhm,
Like, you will get to it.
yeah. I think at least getting it down right. Have you had times where you've written a song that you may not like, but there's a piece of it that you really like, and that you may transition that into another song, or
Definitely.
to another thing? Like, I think that's the importance of getting it out, because it could lead to something better down the road.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I've got loads of songs with either good verses and terrible choruses, or vice versa. There's heaps of those kicking around.
Nice. Nice. So what's the process now then? So now that you're making your own music, where are you at now with it? So you still play for the Wolf Brothers, you're still doing guitar and gigs with
Yeah, that's
them.
my job. Yep.
Um, and then with your own stuff, where are we getting with that now? How's that going?
Yeah, I feel like I'm poised to actually finally get somewhere with it. I feel like it's, these are like the 5 songs I'm putting out this year are easily the best
Mhm.
sounding, like sonically, I've got the most talented people I could reach involved with it.
Yep.
I spent the money I could, that all the money that I could put together for that project was spent what well too. Yeah, I finally got my voice to a place where I can kinda work with it.
Mhm.
We're still working on that, but yeah, like, I feel like this first time I've recorded a bunch of songs where I'm like, the songwriting is on point. I love what I've done. I'm not embarrassed by the songwriting like I am with older
Mhm.
stuff. Um, the production's on like, yeah, I just feel like it's poised. It is the best thing I've ever done in my life, best thing I've ever made. And now I'm sort of getting around the socials a bit more. Like I do a lot of. No one tells you if you want to be a musician now. 90% of your life is video production. So I do a lot of video
Yeah.
production stuff. Obviously, you have to do that to feed the
Yeah.
beast. Starting to enjoy that. Like that's a
Yeah.
journey a lot of musicians go through. You just want to do music. You hate that the social media exists. You don't want to post much
Mhm.
on it, but you get nowhere with it. Eventually, you force yourself to do it. Eventually, you like it. I mean, that's where I'm
Mm.
at with that now.
Yep.
Just yeah, want to do some more gigs. Solo gigs are not something I've done much of. I want to get out there and do some
Mhm.
busking. Busking is something that terrifies me, so that means I
Mm.
have to do it because
Yeah.
that's a bit of a
Mm.
compass as to what to do next. And then do some solo gigs, start getting around the scene in Tassie a bit more. Do some stuff that
Mm.
doesn't require me to pay other musos or anything. Some low risk stuff where I can go in, do
Mhm.
the best job I can, work it up. I want to do an EP launch at the end of the year in a room somewhere where I have to sell tickets. Like that's terrifying to me. Like I've never
Mm.
had to worry about any of that stuff. Other people have taken care of that in the past. So,
Yeah.
that's the stuff to run towards. And now that I've said it publicly, I have to do it,
You gotta do it now.
it's terrifying,
I'll
man.
hold you accountable. I'll
Yeah,
hold
you
you
will.
accountable. I'll get you
Yeah, and
back on
that's
at
the
the
good
end of the
thing.
year and be like, "So, how's it going? Please tell."
Oh, man, hit me up in 3 months and say, "Oi, you said you were gonna do this." And it'll spur me on.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're accountable to
That's
someone else,
me.
it makes a huge difference.
It does make a difference.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons on this podcast, like, I actually got to a point of being in real good shape a while back, and then I kinda let myself go again these last 3 years. So I've kind of made it a point to say on this channel that I'm trying. I don't know if you can see the Spider-Man mask back there, but
Yeah.
I've made a promise to myself that I want to get in shape that I can cosplay as Spider-Man and wear the suit. And there's nowhere to hide in that. There's nowhere to hide in that, brother.
Yeah,
I got
yeah, that's
nowhere to hide. I've
mm,
lost all my muscle mass. I've got my daughter telling me I'm flabby, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it out there that I want to get in this time of my life. It's going to be a bit harder, but I want to, in this point of my life, I want to get in shape enough to be able to wear that, whether it be for Halloween or I make a video on it on my other YouTube channel to talk about it. I just want to do it, and I want to set
yeah,
that challenge, because the challenge of doing that is what I can like run towards. Like you said, run towards something. I want to run towards that as the goal to keep me in check when I want to eat that chocolate, or I want to eat that ice cream, or I want to skip
mm,
that workout, or I want to do whatever the thing is that isn't going to help me get to that goal. So it's kind of like my little way of putting it out there too. So I love that you're doing that with the music. You're putting it out there, and now you got to kind of stick to it. You got to get
yeah,
out there
man.
and busk. You got to
Bloody
get
hell,
out
now I
there
can
and
do it.
you got to put in the reps. You got to put
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
reps, brother.
but I'm enjoying it too, man. I
I'm
feel like
excited.
yeah, there's a little bit of momentum behind this music. I've been doing a couple of radio interviews, and I put out a press release for it. I've never done a press release, but
Oh wow.
that's the kind of thing that's you send that to people, and it's like, oh, this guy's actual, serious. You know,
Yeah,
yeah, just doing
he's
stuff like
legit.
that. It's
He's
hard to
legit.
sell yourself. It's such a hard. I'm one of the guys who finds that really difficult
Hmm.
to sell yourself, but I think I'm getting better at it. That's a skill that I never had. So yeah,
Yes. It is a good skill to learn, mate, because a lot of life is selling yourself. Like, I'll give you a brief little story. When I left becoming a manager at a gym, right? I've been managing gyms for like 7 years, working in the gym industry for 10, doing sales and stuff. After COVID, we didn't have cleaners at the gym I was at. So me and Lani suggested that she could do it.
yeah,
And so we were like, all right, let's clean it together. And let's just clean it to that way we don't have to pay any cleaners to do it. And we'll just do it. And they'll ask that, they'll pay us a little bit. And then from that led to, hang on, let's see if we could actually make this a business. So then I just reached out to people that I'd worked with for the years, and I just put my best foot forward, kind of fake it till you make it, saying, hey, we're
Yeah.
cleaners. I'm running a cleaning business now, and we would love the opportunity to get your business. And we ended up securing a really big gym franchise where we got to clean 3 of their gyms, which changed our lives financially. And we got it, and we're like, we have no idea how to clean all these big gyms and make it work. We have no staff. We had to get friends and family to help. And
Wow.
but the salesman side, like I tell that story to then relate it back to, with the skill of sales, I was able to get an opportunity to change our
Yeah.
lives that I wouldn't have got if I didn't use the skills I had learned doing sales to get it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I just went out there and sold it like, we've got this, we can do this. And when they actually gave us interest, I then had to sit down and go,
Put it
okay,
together.
what's my pitch? How much
Yeah.
do we charge? I don't know how much to charge. How much do we charge? What's the schedule going to be? How do you write a schedule? I had to learn everything within the space of a couple of days to then flick that pitch back to them, to then go meet them and convince them that we're the people to do the job.
Wow.
And, I look back on that and go, okay, if I can do that, then I can create a podcast and maybe get it somewhere. Or if I can do that, I can maybe become a videographer now and get
Of
into
course you can.
cinematography and do all those types of things. But
Yeah.
the art of sales, of being able to just put yourself out there and just sell yourself that you can do this thing, it puts you in a position where you have to do it, and you'll either do it or you won't. But
Yeah.
at least you need to get yourself in the position to figure out whether you can or not.
Yeah.
And I would say that sales is a good thing that they can do that for you. So I think if you
Yeah.
do it with the skills that you have, you'll crush it. You'll crush it,
Yeah,
mate.
like booking the thing, like the thing that you're working towards, just like book it. Like back when before I'd never sung in public ever before. I was like, well, I probably need to go and do some open mic nights. And my mate Bree was like,
Mm.
you need to organize that like now, because if you wait till you're ready, you'll just never be. And it'll give you like a deadline. You'll have it if you once you have a deadline, like you said, you just told those people you could do it. And I was like, "Fuck, now I've gotta
Yeah.
do it." Like, then you
No,
d
I've got to
it's
do
not
it.
like you set the business up first and then went and sold it. It's the other way around, and that
Yeah.
works with a lot of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
getting in touch with someone who organizes an open mic night and saying, "Put me on the bill like, in 2 weeks," and then sitting
Yeah.
back and going, "Jesus, like, I need to get this set together. I need to be like, know these songs inside out and really get my shit together." Like, I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't booked. You just don't. You don't do
Exactly.
that stuff.
You just don't. You keep waiting, things keep happening in
Yeah.
life, and that comes back to, like, something could happen in your personal life, and you've just got to go out there and, well, he already knew he had to do that gig. His toilet's on the ground, but he still had to go do it. It's different
Yeah.
if you had to book the gig, then the toilet happens, then you don't
Yeah.
book the gig because you go deal with it first. So you
Yeah,
kinda, like,
exactly.
just gotta
Yeah, yeah,
you just gotta
exactly.
book it in and go for it. Like, I hadn't even set up a business name. I didn't have an ABN. I didn't have anything set up. I just, like,
Wow, yeah.
sold it, and then I set up everything after that. So when we
That's awesome.
started, I actually
Yeah.
then had the logo, the business, and accountant. Like, had to go do all that
Yes.
stuff after it. So I always
Fantastic.
look back on that and go, it's a good little lesson I learnt. We took our lumps, we had ups and downs and all that type of stuff, as you do, but I wouldn't change it for the world, because now I wouldn't have the freedom to do what I'm doing now,
Yeah.
which is have the time to be able to be here on a podcast and do that stuff with. I would still be working for someone else doing 9 to 5 type hours. So I think definitely book yourself in, and you'll make it happen. If you book for 2 weeks away, in those 2 weeks, you'll probably shit yourself, but you will have the set list done. You'll have it practiced. You'll have it remembered, and you'll go in there and you'll freaking crush
You'll
it.
sort it out.
I
Yeah,
know
you just will,
you'll
'cause you've
figure it
got
out.
no choice. Otherwise, you look like a massive idiot, and you'll
Yeah,
disappoint everyone and, you
and
don't
that's
want that.
another lesson you'll learn. And that's another
Yeah,
lesson you'll learn too. Like, if I think we need to put in stressful situations. And one of the last things I wanted to ask you. So the second last thing I want to ask you. I see that you're looking jacked these days, bruv. Now, I grew up with you, and you're a fairly skinny young man when we grow up.
yeah,
Now
I
you're
was.
flexing all these big muscles around. You're looking pretty jacked, much bigger than me now, and I'm very upset about that. I just wanted to ask you, when did you start making health and fitness part of your life? Like, when
A
did you
long time
start
ago,
getting into the
actually.
gym and
Yeah,
okay, hit me
a
with it.
long
What
time ago.
when? So what?
Um,
Wow. So
it was a long time ago, but like, it's the kind of thing. Remember I mentioned before, like, you can go to the gym heaps, but if you don't eat properly, you sort of get nowhere with
mhm,
it. I was doing that
mhm,
for years, and then
yeah,
only a few years ago, I ended up hitting up a trainer who did me a meal plan and a thing, and it just worked. Like, I just did what he told me to do, and it worked.
yep,
And now, like, yeah, it's just a habit. Like, if I don't, it's like music. If I don't go to the gym for a week, I'm a bit down on it. Like, I'm a bit like, oh, geez, like.
mhm,
But if I'm in there 5 days a week and I get to Friday and finish that last session, I'm just like, yeah, you did it for another week. Like, this is my
yeah,
baseline. This is normal. Anything less than this is
yeah,
like I'm losing ground. Um, but yeah, just just learn to love it. I like going to the gym. It's great. It's another thing to be good at. Another skill. Like,
yep.
it's unrelated to anything else. Yeah, and you get to look at yourself in the mirror and you go, yes, this is awesome. You know, especially
Well, you're
being a
looking pretty jacked.
yeah, I was, like, being a performer, it's kind of important too. You don't want people to be looking at you thinking, you know, he doesn't take care of himself, or, you know,
Mhm,
it's kind of part of it, and I like it. Like, I've always liked it, so
mm,
it wasn't a super. I'm not gonna be like, "Oh, you know, I used to be terrible, and then I got myself into the gym." It's like, no, I've always just enjoyed that. I've always wanted to be looking good, and yeah, it's great fun.
feeling good. Yeah. Look, I mean, I love that because I believe it's such a big building block for how we conduct our lives is having the discipline to exercise. And when you exercise, it helps you be disciplined to eat better. And I find when I was really nailing it, like I was tracking calories and I was doing everything, I just had way more energy. I felt better. When you feel better, you do better in other things. When you feel better, you're more
And
open to
yeah,
opportunities. When you don't feel good, you're less open to opportunities.
yeah,
So I think the gym and just exercise in general is really good for helping you stick to that,
yeah,
especially creative people.
great for confidence, great
Great for
for
confidence.
discipline. Yeah, and it's the kind of thing that's like, you can't buy it. You can't just buy that experience. You can't just buy
Mm,
having, like, a better body. Like, there's only one way to get to it. You know, it shows other people
that's
that you're disciplined and that you can stick to something, and you know, you can get better at stuff. Yeah, you can't lose. You
Yeah,
just can't lose.
you can't lose with it, no. And it's not as long as people think. It's an hour a day, really. If you boil it
Yeah.
down, it's nothing. Do you
Yeah, the
find you get
hardest
creative spurts when you're lifting? Sorry.
sometimes I, because I don't listen to music in the gym. I just have my ears, you know, I
Oh,
just listen to whatever's happening in the gym, and sometimes there's a song on, and I'll just be like, "What's that?" Like, I've never heard that song. Like, there'll be new music that I've not heard,
mhm.
and I'll quickly Shazam it, go home and look at it and be like, "Oh, yeah, I like the feel of that song. I should write something like that." Like, that's happened quite a few times. Um,
That's cool.
yeah. Yeah, it's a nice friendly place too. Yeah, I have gym mates that I don't see outside of the gym. I don't talk to them outside of the
Mhm.
gym. When I go to the gym, they're my mates. You know, it's really good. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's so cool, bro.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's so interesting that you don't listen to things on your headphones when you do it. That's cool to hear. Like most people are always listening to something. Like me, I'll listen to podcasts. I'm a big or an audiobook. I'm either listening to an audiobook or listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
To figure out that a musician is not bothering listening to music. He's just like being in your own head, listening to the environment. That's actually really cool. I like that. I like that you do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and then you can have a
I would
chat
have
with
thought you'd been listening to music. Yeah, like I would have thought you would have been listening to music. So there you go.
yeah,
That's
because
interesting.
I run song like, I'm always looking for something, I'm always looking for the newest thing that I can fall in love with. Always looking for new
Hmm.
music constantly. Um, but I run those things into the ground pretty fast, and then I'm kind of not interested in listening to anything. I'm just like, if it
Hmm.
doesn't, like, make me feel awesome, um, I'm not bothered. Like, you know, I'm always on New Music New Friday playlist, like, just skipping songs. Come on, give me something I can really love, and then that'll go on a
Yeah.
list, and then that'll go on rotation for a week, and then I'll be over it. Always looking to just consume music, but
Yes.
it's rare that it's kind of rare to find something that good. You know, when it happens, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
inspiration, here we go. But yeah,
Yeah,
if it's yeah. Other than that, I don't I don't bother.
that's cool. That's so cool. I'm like that with podcasts and now audiobooks. I've been smashing audiobooks lately.
Yeah,
I'll just get in the zone. I'm just consuming podcasts. I thought, you know what? Let's go. I've been in and out of audiobooks for the last couple of years, but when I get into the mode of listening to books, I just bang book after book, just trying to learn different, more like self-help, self-development, things like that, that I like listening to, as opposed to like stories. I find I like the stories when it comes to film. I'm a big film buff, but when it comes to like books, I like self-help books narrated by the people who wrote them, things like that.
Oh,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
love writing and telling
Yeah.
stories. So I like listening to people who've written the books, read the book to me, essentially. So that's so cool. Okay, well, look, brother, I got one last question for you. One last question while I got you. And you've kind of already touched on this, so don't feel bad if you feel like you're repeating yourself. But one last thing I like to ask people about creating the courage and getting after your dreams and doing your own thing is, if you were to think of one bit of useful advice that's helped you or that you think that you could use to help someone else, what would it be to let people know, people that are listening to this who may be thinking like they have a dream that they want to get after, but they might think they're too old or they're too caught up in work or they may be a bit scared to get after living the life that you've lived and the ups and downs of chasing your dream? What would be something that you'd leave us with, I guess, as a thing to help someone else maybe create the courage and get after their goals?
Yeah, look, not coming at this, I'm not a super successful solo guy, but I will say the things that have made my life better is chasing the things that I'm terrified of. If you're scared of it, that means you should probably go and do it.
Mhm.
Because if you can conquer that fear and you can move into that castle, you can get ready to move on to the next one after that. That's the only way you grow. Everyone knows this. The only way you grow is to be doing, out of your comfort zone. So that's number one. If you're scared of it, you should probably go and do it. Um, and
Yes.
but also if it excites you, that's also the thing. Like
Yeah.
exciting and scared, do that. Definitely do that. Like that's the
Yes.
stuff that sets your life on fire. Like, um, even if what I do solo wise, even if this is it, like this is the last EP, sort of doesn't really go anywhere. I'm just like, yeah, but my life's been awesome. Like this has been
Mm.
great chasing this, and I've learned a lot about myself and become a more well-rounded musician. And if that's not it, I'll use those skills to go and do something else. And
Yeah.
it's okay. Like it's fine.
That's so cool, mate. But I believe like because you're so resilient and you don't quit, as long as you don't quit at it, mate, I think you will make
Yeah.
it a success. It's
Yeah,
just a
don't be
it's just
like, yeah,
yeah.
it'll get hard. It'll definitely get hard. It almost feels like most of the stuff that, that's worth having in life is really difficult to get, and it always tries to trick you to make you think you're not gonna get it. There's always these tricks that's like,
Mm.
"You should quit now," and then you get through that moment, and then it's like, "Oh, no, I'm glad I didn't quit 'cause there's other cool things happening," you know?
Yeah. Oh, mate, thank you. That's so good. I really appreciate the words of advice and the stories you've told. I'm sure you've got many more stories to tell when it comes to your touring days, and I'm sure I'm sure they're exciting. Look, anybody who's listening, please go support Brody. I'll put his link tree in the comment section of the YouTube video and the Spotify, because this will be on YouTube and Spotify. So depending on what you're listening on, go and check the comments or the description, and you'll find a link tree where you can go support Brody's music, listen to his music. If you already listened to the Wolf Brothers, we hope you've enjoyed it, and go follow him on his solo journey as well, because, mate, you are a good man. You've always been a good man, such a friendly, helpful person, a talented musician. And I'm so excited to see what you're going to do with your career moving forward. And I know it's been a long time since we've talked, but from now, I want to make it that we're going to stay in touch more, and that we
Oh,
that
hell
we
yeah. Yeah, I'm up for
that
that.
we talk
Yeah.
more moving forward, because I definitely want to, we've known each other our whole lives. I want to keep that
Yeah.
connection. I don't want to lose that connection. So I thank you for taking the time and actually coming on and talk to me, given that we hadn't talked for so long. And I want to make a vow to do better and stay in contact more and check in on you, and check on each other and make sure we're crushing it, because I'm excited for what the future holds. And I want to be there along the journey and see you succeed in it, mate. So
Same for
thanks
you too,
again
man.
for coming.
You're quite good at this. The interviewing thing, like I
Thank you.
forgot that this is new to you. Like you're quite good at this.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm learning. I'm learning every day. Like I said, I struggle to listen back because I'm like, "Ugh, I should have said that. I shouldn't have said that. Or shouldn't have said this."
Yeah, yeah.
Or
That'll never go
no,
away.
it is what it is. It's always there. But
Yeah.
I just push through, get it done, and just keep moving forward, baby. Just keep
Yeah, you
moving.
can only compare yourself to you, look at where you were months ago, and that's the only comparison you can really do.
Yeah, you're so right, mate. You're so right. Well, I know you inspire me to get after it more. It took me a bit longer in life to get to the point where I wanted to chase my dreams and actually thought I could do it. And I admire you that you got after it at such a young age and you've been doing it your whole life. Like, I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud to have maybe played a small part in, getting to see that journey in the beginning before you got to this point, and now to see you continue to do it, mate. It's so inspiring.
Oh, thanks, man. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
it's been
very
a
proud of you.
been nice to summarize everything. I've not done an interview like this where your whole life gets summarized. Like, this has been really good. Yeah, it's cool.
Awesome, brother. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Well, everybody who's listening, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, follow us on YouTube and Spotify, also on Instagram and X. I was about to say Twitter, it's X. You can follow me on there. I'll be posting shorts and reels from our conversations as well. And stay tuned for the next episode. We're trying to pump out one a week. Hopefully, that's the goal. If I can do one a week, then
that's
I'm
cool.
doing it right. So, brother, I thank you again for being on. And until next time, everybody, get after it.
Cheers.
Catch ya. See you, mate.